Welcome back, Red Spotters. Here, another show on the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, and I want to welcome you to our very special, as I always say, 200th episode of this wonderful podcast with me, Kyle, Peter, Moreno, and Nettie, and David, and Julio, and so many others that have joined us for, gosh, I don't know how many years it's been now, maybe 5 at this point. This is actually a pre-taped podcast with me and Kyle. It's going to be a very long conversation that's going to feature, I would say, a deep dive into some things that have happened on the podcast as far as how certain things happened and as far as a deep dive into our inner psyches, which quite frankly may terrorize some of you. But yeah, it's going to be a personal look into basically how all of this kind of happened, as well as talking a little bit more about ourselves. We haven't really done much of that lately, and my hope is that you'll get to know a little bit more about me and Kyle and a lot of us that do stuff like this as a result of this podcast. So without any further ado, here it is.
Now the story of a horrible podcast that became even worse, and the one host who had no choice but to keep it all together. It's Red Spotlight Entertainment.
Ooh, this oil bath is going to feel so good.
That's the perfect way to start any podcast, I feel. Like, do you think this should be called, like, basically, oh, wow, part 2?
Oh, wow. Well, it depends on where this goes.
This is not going to go the way you think.
Oh,
you know,
God.
I really regret, I don't know what it is, and I guess we'll figure it out whenever episode 9 is released.
Right.
But I probably should have called, This Is Not Going to Go the Way You Think, part 4. That was our reaction to the very first teaser of episode 9.
Uh-huh.
I probably should have, even though it's a good title, I probably should have called it something like, No One's Ever Really Gone.
Roll it again.
No One's Ever Really Gone / Roll It Again.
Roll it again. Yeah, because that'll definitely roll off the tongue.
So, you know, I guess that's a good discussion, right? So what would be a better title for our inevitable review of that movie? Roll It Again or No One's Ever Really Gone?
So for sure this episode will be before Rise, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because Rise is the 20th.
Yeah. We're pre-taping this, just to be clear. That's why we're going to get our schedules mixed up.
All right.
So
all right.
I'm still in October, even though it's not October. Like, that thing's gone, right? Yeah. So,
you know, I don't know what happened, but like I skipped over Halloween and I went straight to Cattle Call because for the past week
I thought you were gonna say Christmas.
No, dude. If it was up to me, those Christmas decorations would already be fucking up.
I thought you were one of those people that hated the quick like carryover from Halloween to Christmas.
Quite the opposite.
Really? I really thought you hated that.
No, quite the opposite. In fact, I it's just trying to transition away from a different holiday to another one. That's the tedious part of it.
Okay.
But like I really love the Christmas atmosphere.
Oh,
like,
well, yeah, absolutely.
I fucking love it. Like, I love waking up in the morning. I love turning on the Christmas tree. I love having that thing going on.
I don't do mornings.
You know, one of my favorite things about Christmas, like in terms of like what I do and what our family does, we light the fireplace, and we have coffee or hot chocolate or whatever around the fireplace, and just shoot the shit. You know, and honestly, that's a great family little thing that we do, and I absolutely love it. That's one of my favorite things ever, just talking, laughing.
I just thought that you were one of those people, because, like, you know, in recent years, like, because, you know, our social media culture, it's like, we like to, like, think that November the 1st is actually December 1st, and it's like Christmas season, and it's time to play Christmas songs and everything.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be one of those, like, just would rail against that.
Oh no! In fact, quite the opposite. If I could skip, okay, the only reason why people really like Thanksgiving is because of the fucking food.
Which, I mean, that ain't a bad reason to like Thanksgiving.
I mean, it's not. It's not. It's probably the only good thing to come out of Thanksgiving.
Well, historically speaking, it's supposed to, symbolize what? Like peace or like, compromise or like getting together and everything?
Quote, quote, peace.
Right.
But that's the thing that's
Kumbaya, my lord, and everything.
Oh, kumbaya. Yeah. But no, it's the thing about that holiday, you quote holiday around it, is that it's very demeaning kind of thing.
In what way?
Because like where the natives are now,
well,
like it's fucked up.
Well, as everything, it's funny. We just talked about this in the Shining episode with Peter. One of the hidden I guess messages of The Shining was like the blood spilled of Native Americans.
Yeah, it cued like the famous shot of like the blood, like just crashing down.
It also, and I guess this is sad, right? But it's also a holiday that I feel it means less and less every year, considering the climate that we live in. Like no one's really in the mood to get along, right? Everyone's this culture is just increasing, and I mean like our political culture, right? Of which like is supposed to be like important, but this like society is like more and more interested.
We live in a society.
We live in a society. Go see Joker. Is it just me?
Is it just me, or is it getting crazier out there? But Alexis, you don't understand.
What is it I don't understand?
All I have are dark thoughts.
It's okay. I think that's all of us.
But to me, Thanksgiving is a banger. In this regard, because my family's culture, I guess, is so deeply rooted in food. Like you have no idea, because like the thing is that we have like 100-year-old like recipes.
You're kidding?
Us. No, my mom legitimately has a box of old recipes that have been passed down for the last at least 100 years.
I don't know if I want to believe that.
No,
that's a long time.
It's true. Like legit. Like my great grandmother. Like number one, her recipes are fucking bomb. Texas chocolate cake, fuck me up now. Like there's a lot of good shit going on. Wow. In terms of food wise. I mean,
does that mean that you are inherited those recipes?
I guess so. I guess so, and I'm actually very thankful that I was surrounded.
It's like one of your hobbies. I don't know if you call it a hobby, but one of your interests or passions. You like to cook.
I like to cook. Yeah, when I can.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if we talked about this on the show before, but you've made me some stuff from like some of our favorite pop culture stuff. Like I
made you fish fingers and custard
from Doctor Who. From the very first Matt Smith episode. Was very good, actually. You wouldn't expect it. Also, I believe you made the soup from Ratatouille.
Yeah, I made you
for me and
soup.
Moreno.
Yeah.
Was that did you make that on one of those days when we were supposed to record our marathon of the Disney Renaissance? Or was that some other time?
No, it was some other time.
I think you made it twice, though.
I don't think I made it.
No, you did.
During that time, yeah. But I do remember making. I thought I just gave it to you. I didn't.
No, she was there. No,
I made it. Moreno, the soup.
I believe that was in your older house. Maybe.
Yeah,
I remember that.
It could have used a lot more cream.
Yeah,
because that's the thing.
That's what gives it its look.
Its look. but it's only for look.
Right,
it's looking for taste. And honestly, like cream is just like. It's just to give it more of a bodied thing, but you had the tomato and you had everything like that. So we had that thing, and
I don't know what it is. I want to say that we were watching Little Mermaid or something.
I think we were.
Yeah.
And then we had it's pretty much potato soup with leeks. And then you throw in tomato soup in there.
Right.
That's all it is really, and that's what I made you. But yeah. I think, food has always been, like, a key component. I mean, like, Thanksgiving, like, it's always this big deal.
Mm-hmm.
We turn on and watch Capitalism Take Over with, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's fun. I get to watch show tunes. Like they had like this very impromptu like Bikini Bottom set for the SpongeBob Broadway musical, and it was so like they pushed Gary on a fucking skateboard. That's your Gary. But yeah, like food has always been like a key component thing.
I haven't seen that fucking parade since like whenever the last time Reba was on there, which was like 2009 when that album came out. Oh. So it was like, it's been 10 years.
Wow.
I don't know. The only parade that's broadcast on national TV that I can actually like get myself to somewhat glance at is the Christmas Day parade at Disney or Disneyland. We know how they have those specials. Yeah. That's always on in the background because it's Disney, like, you know, parades and everything. We know it's not live; it's like pre-taped well in advance.
But they always have like the regulars, like John Legend would like play, you know, When You Wish Upon a Star.
Yeah, there was this one float that I don't know if it was a staple of the Disney World parade, but they had a Pirates of the Caribbean float with Jack Sparrow and Hector Barbosa. Which I really wish those characters were like more prominent. But anyway, it was a nice float too. But yeah,
you have to go to Shanghai for all that.
And get Shanghai'd?
No.
I'm sorry, that was rude. That was not even a good joke. Or a pun, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, for me, the more I've kind of like, the more I think we've aged, whatever, food is like a big part to like Thanksgiving. Maybe less so getting together with family. I mean, maybe I might have appreciated that a little bit more so, but like, I don't know, my family is getting a little bit more older and distant every year. I mean, I don't love them any less, right? But like, it's, you know, the thing, and this is so cliche, but like, you have to navigate around like the usual fucking questions they're going to ask you. Like, so what are you doing this year? You got a job? Are you making money? Are you married?
Right.
Do you got a kid? And it's like any other family function. You know, it's like, it's
do you have 30 years of success yet?
No. It's like, what do you mean by that?
Do you have 30 years worth of success?
Right. One of the questions they'd ask you.
Yeah.
It's just, the questions are tedious. The conversations are tedious. And I think you and I are of the same mind that, you know, what kind of drives us are like riveting intellectual conversations on things that we're equally passionate about. Like, I know that you and I are not, like, I can't have like an enriching discussion on politics with you because you don't have that same interest or passion. Whereas with Peter, or even when I was in Washington, D.C.
You could talk like that all the long day.
Oh, God, yes.
But the thing is that, like,
movies with us.
Our things is movies and, on occasion, television.
Yeah.
But with my parents, the thing that I could talk about with them that I can't with you guys is I could make the most, like, deep-cut music reference, and they'll get it.
Yeah, I think they'd be a better fit, because they literally introduce you to that music.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, I wrote a little ditty, and then my mom would be like, about Jack and Diane. I'm like, yes, throw in some John Mellencamp in there. Like, yeah.
How old are you?
I know it sounds cliche, but like, you know, 90 spiritually.
But. That's another interesting thing.
I love dressing up in suits.
Yeah.
I love my martinis.
You're just a curious person. You know,
I love my bubble baths.
You've never... Look, from the moment I met you, like, it's very clear as far as, like, music, and your music is part of your core and part of your DNA. And most of it's generally been classic rock, or all of the big rock legends, even diving into, like, hardcore heavy metal and everything. But it just seemed to me, maybe it's changed somewhat until recently, like when I first met you, you didn't really seem to have any kind of like, which is fine, right? Any kind of appreciation toward like pop-y kind of music. But like lately, like there have been some like artists that you like that I'm kind of surprised by. Or maybe not so much more now.
Like what?
Well, here's a good example. You didn't like Taylor for a bit, and now things turn around.
But here's the thing. The reason why I didn't like Taylor for a hot minute was...
Taylor Swift, by the way.
Yeah.
As a new album. What's it called?
Lover.
Love the album.
Gorgeous.
Love it.
It's a gorgeous album. And I'm like, you know, this is Taylor's sound.
There's something I will say. I did it. I loved 89 and I really enjoyed Reputation. Although this album kind of captured early Taylor in a way.
Early Taylor infused with what she was going for with 89 and Reputation. And the thing about that is like with those albums is that, you know, it felt forced.
I can understand that. Especially Reputation felt a little bit more forced.
It felt severely forced. Right. And that's why I couldn't because forced art is, to me, it's just so schlocky and so jarring. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why I found, I right now I'm on a Billie Eilish kick. Mm-hmm. Because her tone is so kind of dark and spooky kind of thing versus, you know, and then you throw in some hip hop, some early rock, little influences and, you know, sprinkled in here and there. And like songs like Bury a Friend, All Good Girls Go to Hell, and Bad Guy, and all those other songs. Holy shit, this is classic rock, but throw in some hip hop in there and that's what you got.
Also, look, I enjoyed the Reputation album, but I will say, that a lot of it, well, the first two singles that came out of that album, which were Ready for It and Look What You Made Me Do, I think are some probably her worst material. I really don't if I go back and listen to that album, I skip those two. I never hear those songs. But with Lover, there's this, I don't know what it is, but there's this ease about it.
What's your favorite track off of there?
Lover.
Lover.
And I'll tell you why. I think that's her best song in a long time.
Really?
Because when I heard it and when I keep hearing it, it's like the old Taylor. It's a lot like the old Taylor.
I love more of the breathy, atmospheric Taylor. That's the reason why in 1989 my favorite song off of that album was This Love. And
what was your least favorite off that album?
Oh, Shake It Off.
Yeah. It wasn't my favorite.
It off. Because the thing is that it was, number one, it was everywhere. You couldn't escape it.
Every track off that album was everywhere.
Okay, remember that episode of The Walking Dead where Daryl was stuck with the Saviors and they continuously played the song Easy Street?
Oh, yeah. I remember that episode. That was years ago.
That's me. That was me during the Shake It Off little thing. But the thing is that it not only was it everywhere, it felt... It goes back to the feeling forced thing.
Right.
And I just don't like that. I want it real, and Lover came from a very real place, and it feels like that.
It's a great song. I love it.
The Archer is probably my favorite track off that album.
It's good. I think they're all really good tracks. Another one of those artists that you just turned around on was Ariana.
Because
you really I think one of the first things you said was she's basically just Mariah Carey 2.0.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
First thing you said.
When I heard the track Dangerous Woman.
When did you hear that track?
A year ago.
Was it here?
A year ago.
A year ago?
A year or
what
two.
What do you mean a year ago?
Wait,
hold up a minute. I have this vivid memory of us being in this room that we're in right now with Mr. Martinez or with Mr. Dominguez.
Okay.
And I remember playing an acoustic video of Ariana performing that song. Was it, what song? Dangerous Woman?
Dangerous Woman.
Yeah, she was performing that song. I think it was a cappella, actually. She was doing it. No acoustics or whatever. You were there. Were you even listening?
No.
It's okay, man. Here's the thing. If you want me to pay attention to your videos, you gotta pay attention to mine. And I feel like every time I put a video on for you, you don't even pay attention.
No, I do. Here's the thing. I've been getting better about all that stuff. Okay. But the thing is that coincidentally, that's the thing that got me on. Cause it's
cause even our good friend Nettie was baffled. Cause she recalls you not liking her. And then here you are, is I really love Ariana Grande. She's what the fuck?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay. Here's the thing. To be fair, Like, all full transparency.
Yeah.
I'm not a full-on Arianator.
Well,
I'm not a full-on Arianator.
But you like your music now.
But here's the thing. Like, God is a Woman. What else? Thank You Next. It's such a stupid tone to it,
right.
but it's like, it's catchy enough. It drives...
What were all the songs that AOC mentioned in her tweet? That recent tweet that she had.
Oh yeah, she was like referencing a bunch of Ariana Grande songs.
I think it was like
"Thank You."
Be All Right. Thank You Next.
Thank You Next. But I think
God is a Woman.
God is a Woman.
Yeah, some others of those.
And then Ariana like retweeted it. She was like, "Oh my god, like I'm starting."
Is she feeling the burn?
I think she's okay. Here's the thing. I think she's always felt the burn.
Really?
I think Ariana Grande has always felt the burn.
I don't think she's ever gotten involved or even made.
She's not gone full involved. Right. She has said about her endorsement about all that stuff.
Are you feeling the burn? I mean, it's not the platform to make political endorsements, but have you decided to throw your weight before?
I've been feeling the burn since 2015.
And now that AOC feels the burn, it's been reignited.
Oh my god! Like, I can't express.
He's a big fan of AOC.
Here's the thing. I've been so fucking fed up with politics. Like, so
Who hasn't?
Fed up with politics. Like, I never liked it.
Yeah.
I never liked anything like that. I'm just like.
Let me ask you this question real quick. You never liked it. Did you meeting me and me telling you all the stuff that happens make you hate it even more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And unbearably so. Like, we have a group.
No collusion.
We have a group messenger, right?
On both sides.
And there's two things that is a constant in our group chat on Messenger.
Oh yeah. Our chat. I'm sorry, it's funny.
Right now, it's heavy into the oh fuck Disney Plus and all that stuff. That's right. That's another thing. That's one thing.
Hashtag it.
But another thing is just politics. And I'm just like.
Let me tell you something. I'm merciful for you. You know why? Because I sent the majority of those things. I sent directly to Peter. I feel like I'm very light on political messages in the Red Spotlight chat compared.
But here's the thing that I'm trying to get better at like reading all your stuff. Okay. And like paying attention and like.
Okay, what do you give me an example of something that you pay attention to versus something that I send that you ignore flat out. That way I have a better indication of what not to send.
I pay attention to all of it.
Okay.
That's just flat it. I pay attention to all of it because I know you have like this misconception that I don't pay attention to anything like that. Well, look, I do. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm lazy, I don't scroll that far up, but I do pay attention.
It happens to all of us.
For a good, I think 80% of what you send, I pay attention to. But anyway, so. I get full on with the politics of it all. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I was just like, fuck politics. Like, everybody's so fucking fake. All the Democrats are fucking fake. Yeah. All the Republicans are fucking fake. Can't vote independent because that's a waste of vote.
And by the way, you say this as somebody that has never stepped foot in the swamp.
But here's it's just like, I smell plastic. It's so fake.
I was going to say you smell shit. All the bullshit that they spew out of their mouths.
But here's the thing. AOC being somebody with no political background whatsoever. She was
a bartender. She was a waitress.
She was a waitress. Yeah. And to step up and become like this big old gigantic Keith Richards.
She's a phenomenon.
Keith Richards of a rock star in the name of politics. Yep. Like, honestly, right now, like, number one, I want AOC to be Bernie's running mate. Yeah. I want that so fucking bad. Because, number one, that would give Bernie a huge
You think
boost.
she'd say yes to that, though? I feel she's maybe too principled for that, knowing how she is.
But here's the thing. Like, that would be the biggest, boldest move in politics in like the last 20 years.
Well, I'll tell you what a bold move, Kathleen. I'll tell you what a bold move is. Bold move or bold is to decide that you're going to endorse you're going to endorse the oldest candidate in the race while just Okay, this is the story of what happened. This is what gets me really emotional about it. She did not make up her mind about endorsing Senator Sanders until she heard about the heart attack. And actually what happened was, according to the reporting, she called him while he was in the hospital. And she was like, you have it. I'm with you. And you have to appreciate that.
Guy had to almost die in order for it to happen.
But of course, at that point, in normal conventional wisdom would say, this heart attack killed him politically. He's not going to win. It's only going to hurt you if you throw your political capital behind this guy. And she was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And I think what she said herself is she made this endorsement because it's what she felt was the right thing to do. And that is key, because many people in this country don't have any kind of real confidence that people do that people do make political choices based on what they thought was the right thing to do. What people feel right now is that they make choices based on who's giving them the most cash to run for re-election. Yeah. That's the reality. And AOC is not that. She's the furthest thing from that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, she's genuine. She's the fucking real deal. But the thing that number one, she's got this, like, you know, again, youth. Yeah, but youth goes a long way. Because we are the youth. Yeah. We are the youth. Even though we could kind of relate to this person. Yeah. You know?
She ain't that older than us.
Yeah, she's under her 30s.
She's 30.
Yeah, basically. She's 30. Yeah, and the thing is that, you know, she came from nothing. Yeah. You know, and now she's one of the biggest fucking rock stars. Yeah. You know,
and look who inspired her to run. She just thinks she was from what I understand, I think she did volunteer for the Sanders campaign in 2016. Yeah.
And it was Bernie Sanders that made her push through the edge. She was like, I was not interested in politics until Bernie Sanders came around. Yeah. And that's how I feel about AOC. Like, how is she, I guess it's kind of like a domino effect to politics, right? Because like Bernie inspired AOC, and AOC inspired like something like me or you and all that stuff, and it's just it's so uplifting and inspiring. It is the what is it called, what's that line in Last Jedi where what Poe Dameron said, you know, I will it'll be the spark that'll light the
fire that'll burn down the first order.
Yes, that is the
it's such a weird line. I can never remember it the whole way.
Super but I genuinely love
and AOC. You know what else makes us love her?
And you know what? The next turn of the election, she'll be of age to run as president.
That's key, right? But what's interesting about all of this is,
and she's old enough to be running mate too.
I believe she is. So I wouldn't rule it out. The thing about what makes us love AOC so much more, and even Bernie to an extent, is just how like revolted the establishment are by those two.
Oh yeah.
Like you notice how the political establishment, the corporate media establishment hate those two. Like, how many times it feels like AOC has been around for years now. She just got elected like last November.
They tried to do a hit piece on her dancing video she made in college.
Well, that's Fox News. I mean, they're dumb. But like in general, there's this resistance from the establishment, and all I have to say about that is when all of the establishment singles you out and they want to take you down, they see you as a threat. And I like the threat because I don't like the establishment. You know, I don't know, but ever since AOC endorsed Bernie, he on the campaign trail has been more like, we have to overrun the Democratic Party establishment. We got to take this party over. Like, we're done with it. Because the party that gave us Clinton in 2016.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain.
Captain Phillips. Wow, what a movie.
2013, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a thrill ride.
But anyway, back to this whole like Thanksgiving thing, because like we went down a rabbit hole. Like as I've gotten older, what I've really appreciated so much more, and I think a lot of like people in our circle do this. Black Friday sales.
Black Friday.
That's to me like the whole reason for having it. Because like
Friday, which by the way, this part of the conversation is not for you. It's more for me.
Okay.
There's this theater.
Is it James Bond?
No.
What is it?
No, there's this theater troupe called Star Kid. I don't know if you heard about them.
What?
Okay, let me give you some context, okay? To make my 2 cents, I guess, make sense. You know Darren Criss, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Glee. Yeah.
He got his start in a theater troupe called Star Kid.
Okay.
And Star Kid has like this illustrious cast of great performers. You have Lauren Lopez, Joy Richter, Dylan Saunders, Jamie Lynn Beatty, Brian Holden, Meredith Stepien. The list goes on. Anyway, they have great shows. There's a parody of what's it called, Wicked, but it set it in Aladdin and make Jafar the hero of the story. You like kind of like.
Did I see that?
I showed you a little bit of it.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Now. Okay, so what's the?
Anyway, they're making a new horror musical, I guess, universe, I guess, and it started last year with the guy who didn't like musicals.
Okay.
And what it was about was that imagine the implications of this. Imagine everyone around you was involved in a musical except you. And so this alien infection invades Earth and makes everyone into a musical, except for a couple of people, and the person that they're trying to target, who does absolutely abhors musicals, is a guy named Paul. And like it's just like this whole thing. Like imagine this. Everybody's singing and dancing. Everybody hears the musical numbers in their heads, right? And all that stuff. And they hear it like, they're like, la-dee-da-da, la-dee-da-da. But then, you think that everybody's going mad, and that just the spooky.
So what's happening here? There's a new.
So there's a new one that's, I guess, a sequel to all that.
Okay.
And in the same confines of this universe.
And is it coming out when?
And it's called. It's coming out later on this year on YouTube. Right now, they're performing it. And it's called.
Okay.
And it's called Black Friday.
Okay.
It's about the ultimate avarice of
the avarice.
The avarice never ends. But it's the ultimate avarice of capitalism in terms of like marketing, like because there's like this doll.
Wait, stop. Was that a Grinch reference?
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, where have I heard that? I was introduced to the word avarice when I saw
the Grinch,
the Ron Howard Christmas movie, the Grinch movie.
You learned stuff in movies. What can I say?
Right, the avarice
never ends, and it means greed. I had to look up, like, what does avarice mean? And
he had a lot of vocabulary on him. I appreciate that.
But anyway, it's called,
underrated film, by the way.
It's called Black Friday. There's a toy called the Wiggly toy that's like possessed, and it like drives everybody insane.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's trying to get this latest toy called the Wiggly toy. It's kind of like, have you seen Jingle All the Way?
Yes.
Imagine with
Arnold and Lloyd.
With Arnold and Lloyd,
right.
Yes. Imagine Turbo Man as like this cuddly, ugly looking thing, but everybody must have it, and like it'll drive a lot of people mad with all this avaricial stuff going on. So it's good. It's very interesting. Sorry, I threw everybody on that rabbit hole, but I just like started.
It's just another piece of the puzzle getting into your psyche,
Yeah,
it's just things that we like.
But Star Kid, I absolutely love it. Darren Criss got his start in the first major musical that they did, which is a Harry Potter musical where he played Harry Potter.
Okay.
They had to do it. They had $125 to make this musical happen. They got it done. And it's just like this whole laundry list of like other stuff that went on into the behind the scenes. And like somebody who knows what the ins and outs of theater, it's kind of comforting knowing what they go through and all that stuff.
Well, it's like with Black Friday, for me anyway, what always appealed to it was going to Best Buy and picking up as many movies as possible because I collect a lot of movies.
Really?
Yeah. We're recording in my room, so Kyle can see like a whole bunch of movies. They're literally plastered all over the walls. But generally speaking, like Best Buy has some of the best deals. Like last year, there were a lot of really great deals on 4K Blu-rays. Too bad I didn't give a shit about many of them. Otherwise, I probably would have picked them up. I think they had like Infinity War, which I already owned at that point, and Ant-Man and the Wasp for like $10-15, like a 4K Blu-ray.
Pop?
Yeah, it's like wow. Like I had a lot of really great deals. So I'm hoping this year to. I don't know if they'll have any more of the steelbooks.
Maybe a certain title will be available.
Which one?
If you know me, you know which title I'm talking about.
Oh, the James Bond thing?
Yeah.
Should we even... I don't want to mention that. Like, that was... Okay, but James Bond is a collection that you've been wanting to get. You technically already have.
I already have it.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to me, which is bullshit, you have to get, like, the ultimate collection. Because I own all 24 movies.
Mm-hmm. But
it just didn't come with the digital HD copy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's not generally something we talk about on the show, but like we share a massive library of all of our films that we've redeemed digitally over the years. Because we're nice like that. And Kyle has like all of the James Bond films, but he doesn't have like a digital HD version because when that box set was first released, it wasn't as common as it is now.
Yeah.
Which is bullshit.
It has all 24 movies in it. It's nice. The picture, like, oh my god, Sean Connery has never looked any better. Okay. It's great quality. Like the way that they transferred it, it looks so crisp and clean.
What? How long until they just do a 4K transfer?
I don't know.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Right now, the 4K digital collection of the Craig era just came out.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. 4K.
So then, okay, again, because like you've been looking at you've been entertaining the thought about maybe purchasing the collection again to get those digital versions, right?
Yeah.
You have to wonder. Well, look, you're not somebody that cares about 4K at all. So if you wait for the 4K to drop, maybe the price of the regular Blu-rays will come down.
We'll see, because No Time to Die is coming out really soon, and they'll want to market like stuff like
Plus, whenever Bond No Time to Die comes out on home video, okay, catch me up. Have they already released the Bond films on 4K, or they're about to release the Bond films on 4K?
No, they already. Okay, the Craig era is.
I'm sorry, I meant the Daniel 4K. Craig films. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already out.
Okay. Because then it'll come out with No Time to Die. Okay, that'll have its 4K standard release. So I would imagine that at some point in the near future, they're going to want to do a 4K James Bond collection. Because like it'll be like this. You probably imagine maybe a new box set like Bond 25, like all 25 James Bond movies.
Which I was looking at like Dr. No and like holy shit.
That's
like,
the first movie, right?
That's the first movie. Yeah.
When did that come out?
62.
Oh yeah, that's a lot older than Star Wars.
Star Wars
looks great on Blu-ray,
and like the transfer of that looks gorgeous. Like the glossiness, because it's a lot of pastels. It's the 60s. You're gonna have your pastels.
Yeah.
And the pastels, like everything, like pops.
There's something about older films, especially on 4K, because I've collected some new 4K discs like The Shining and Casino and what was it called? I also got E.T. Those older movies transferred over the 4K. I have no words.
Breathtaking.
It's breathtaking how amazing they look. Like older movies look better on 4K than I think newer ones do. Maybe because newer movies obviously are made with how movies are right now, clearly. But
here's the thing, like there's something like, I don't know, like I'm not gonna like diminish the term,
right?
I go like what it is, the quality, by saying novelty,
right?
But it is a sheer novelty to see it. Like that's why when I possess the despecialized editions, and like
Really?
Really?
I don't think
yeah.
people ever heard you talk about that before on this show.
The transfer from the original Laserdiscs
Mm-hmm.
and the one that came out, what's it called? You know the DVDs that came out with the theatrical version of it.
Yeah.
They kind of took those two and spliced them together,
Right.
And they transferred them to make it with what we're seeing right now on your screen right now is the Blu-ray copy of A New Hope, and they pretty much like transferred all of those copies and made the despecialized editions that we know of today. Gorgeous. I would have to say it looks better than the Blu-ray, I think, right? You know,
really?
Yeah. In terms of like the quality, because it's like so crisp, you could see every detail. Like right now, you see Carrie Fisher's hair, and you know you could see like the grooves, you could see like the crevices in Peter Cushing's face. And it's just an amazing thing, and that's the thing with the transfers, like, and I could definitely see that because I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark in 4K through Netflix. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like like, oh my god, like I think like the desert is ugly in terms of like just the dirt landscapes, but like the way that
we live in it and we have a little bit of a bias toward that, but generally speaking, you can make a desert look beautiful, like Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
So whenever the Star Wars, I would assume 2020 they're gonna come out maybe on 4K with all 9 movies. I'm really excited to see. It'll be special editions. But I'm really excited for 4, 5, and 6 to see how they'll look like when they have the official 4K transfer on there. Because I honestly thought, before 4K, I think that the original Star Wars trilogy, because of the byproduct of all of these different like special edition versions, like as films, while yes, things have been swapped in and out to the annoyance of many, including I think both you and I. They've been curated rather well. Like a lot of the things that have been enhanced to, like the sound quality or some of the effects. Like it's been upscaled and it's been some of the most cared for and looked after films. Compared to a whole bunch of other movies that haven't even been touched since when they were released. A lot of movies are just lost to time. Yeah,
and also it's another thing because it's like you're dealing with trying to find the film negatives. And trying to transfer those.
You want to explain what that means to the audience?
Okay, the film negative is like the roll of film, essentially.
The roll of film?
The roll of film. When
you mean like the actual roll?
Yeah. When you shoot. Okay, when you shoot in film, there's a thing called transfer, which you're supposed to, I guess, dip in some sort of acid or something like that, and that's how you're supposed to have like the full clear picture.
Okay.
It was done during the Chaplin era. That's why there's when you look at remember in Stranger Things, remember when what's his face, Charlie Heaton's character, Byers, Jonathan Byers. Yeah. Remember when they were working at that newspaper thing in season 3? Yep. Remember how he was in that room? That's part of the transfer process.
That's what I imagined.
Yeah. And you have to deal with all that to get like the full picture and all that stuff to make it fully develop. Anyway, there's a version of that that's undeveloped, and that's the key important part that you have to do when you're transferring something, because with that negative transfer, you get the full aspect ratio, you get like everything you want. It's pretty much the hard copy of because when you film something, you have the rough cut and everything like that. That's like the rough cut of film, and you want that. You want the nitty gritty. That way you're able to go in and do what you got to do. Because if you go in with something already pre-established, it's kind of fucking difficult.
Yeah.
To restore everything. That's the process that, because some movies still haven't gotten a transfer because of, missing negatives and missing audio and all that stuff, where you can go in and touch it up. It's why there's a lot of discrepancies when it comes to, I know it's a different medium, but when you're talking about, there's a heavy controversy within the Metallica fans that with the And Justice for All, the album And Justice for All, because the bass is turned down really low. The mids on the drums is so freaking high. Like it's regarded as a bad mix. And the reason why they can't go in and like completely remix it and all that stuff is because they're missing their negatives. You know, and
could they just re-record the album?
They could record it, but yet it doesn't like have that vintage sound. You know, that's really key essential. It's like trying to like redo Frank Sinatra's stuff. It just can't be done.
Yeah.
You know, they've definitely like there's only one instance where they re-recorded a song in the Metallica history, which was Orion.
What happened there?
It's just a pomp and circumstance because they were doing the movie Through the Never. And they wanted to do Orion for the end credits.
Oh, okay.
And they re-recorded the song. But here's the thing: like the first version was Cliff Burton, the first bassist, and now it has the new bassist, which he has the longest tenure. So it's like a more official kind of thing. And it's Robert Trujillo's bass playing going through it. So it's just like. Going back to transfer, it's just like one of those things that, you know, like for example, the transfer for Schindler's List, gorgeous and breathtaking. Like the red on the coat really fucking pops.
Yeah.
The thing that's really breathtaking is like, you know, the black and white and all that stuff, obviously, but like when in the opening scene, the candle is lit and the candle is flickering. It's almost hypnotic. It's almost hypnotic, and it's like kind of like you're being transported back in time, and it's just like it's absolute gorgeousness.
It's a hell of a film too.
Yeah.
So that's basically what our November is going to look like. Although there's some exciting stuff happening this month.
Yeah.
That I believe. By the time this is even recorded, we'll have even talked about it, so let's not even get to that point. But, you know, back to Christmas.
Back to Christmas.
So...
Are we going there?
Do you want to go there?
Are we going there?
Going where? Where do you think I'm going to go with
Rise of Skywalker?
No, not there, no.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
No, we're going to have so many, like, Star Wars conversations. By the way... You listen to this podcast, go check out Fantasy Fair because they're going to have all of the Star Wars movies and Once Upon retrospects.
Yay. Okay, to be fair.
You chose to do that.
Okay,
you know?
Right now, it's not looking so bright because right now we're doing the prequels as we're recording. That all of them are probably up already.
So what's the... Okay, so... I'm going to assume you're recording those shows in the order you're going to release them.
Yeah.
So how are you going to release the movies? Where are you going to fit in the spin-offs?
They're all part of prequel month.
Okay. Oh, prequel.
Yeah, okay. Right now we're in prequel month.
Okay.
Phantom Menace, as we were recording,
Age
Phantom Menace
of the Republic.
But anyway, this is prequel month.
Okay.
Right now that involves episode 1, 2, 3, Rogue, Solo. 5 movies in 1 month.
Solo takes place before Rogue One.
Oh, whatever. Who gives a shit?
I prefer you finish the month with Rogue One than Solo. Okay. That's going to be a very negative podcast.
Yeah, and then Rogue One. Hey, and then it'll transport you to
A New Hope.
To A New Hope, and that'll be a nice transition.
Is Moreno watching the movies again?
I think so.
I mean, I don't think you need to. I mean, you've seen them thousands of times.
You don't need to, yeah. We do talk about that marathon when we watched all of them a couple of times.
What marathon?
Remember I was at my old house and we watched them all in my living room.
What do you mean by all of them?
I think leading up, okay, because we watched bits and pieces of the prequels, and then we watched 4, 5, and 6 afterwards. Do you
all in one sitting?
All in one sitting. It was a long night. But anyway.
She was there.
Yeah. I think Peter for part of it.
This was before Force Awakens.
Before Force Awakens.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so we were trying to
really
refresh.
Exciting. Okay.
We were trying to refresh the membranes going on. But anyway, it was.
I remember.
We talk about that. Right now we did Attack of the Clones, and we're just like, why? At a couple of times I had to explain to Moreno the plot because it's so fucking convoluted. She's like, okay, what happened? Oh, there's a guy named Sifo Dyas.
That's where everybody just loses it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it is naturally convoluted. Because what happens is Sifo Dyas, who is this Jedi who has seen this great conflict, is somehow bamboozled by Sidious and Dooku into going to the Kaminoans and creating a grand army of the Republic without the Republic knowing about it. You know the story.
I
what do you
know.
mean I hadn't lost you?
I know, but you already lost me. For the longest time, I thought Sifo Dyas was a codename for Qui-Gon Jinn.
I mean, I think people thought that, right? When the movies came out in real time.
It's like Sifo Dyas died 10 years ago.
And the audience was like, who the fuck is Sifo Dyas?
And like,
the movie itself made it seem as if you saw this character in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I was like,
no.
Qui-Gon? Is Qui-Gon Sifo Dyas? So I thought...
But when you think about it, though, they could have made it Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Qui-Gon was one that... he was not in the council. Again, we know this because of other canon stuff, but he was, maybe in the movie, he's not in the council because he's not really seen as in the inner circle of the Jedi because he has his own notions that I think the council consider to be extreme.
Unnatural.
Extreme.
But here's the thing. Knowing his extreme temperaments, he would go out and like find a clone army. And like try to get that kick.
That's why it wouldn't have been that much of a surprise in that regard. So yeah. So you're watching all these Star Wars movies. You're talking about them again for Once Upon a Retrospect.
And then next month is original trilogy and sequel.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the things that... well, it's not Once Upon a Retrospect because, I mean, you guys have... You're tailored more toward the Disney side of it. But like, we've... on Red Spotlight, I know you and I talked about this about a month ago. We've kind of done something close to that. We did it with Hook.
Yeah.
Peter and I did with The Shining this week. And then we'll have other ones. We talked about doing Rocky Horror Picture Show, some other movies that we considered about basically revisiting and talking about. And I've honestly quite enjoyed it. It's really nice to kind of have that kind of programming mixed in.
Get away from showbiz for a little while.
Well, it's look, the news is heavy and the news is the news. And at some point, it's not necessarily anything new and it's more of the same. So I think, having conversations based around film.
Because I hate redundant conversation. Don't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand that. But these reviews should... I've enjoyed them, I mean, but yeah. It's also something that, we don't just do news every week. I know that in the past month or so, with every news show, there is a movie review component. Like Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Breaking Bad. El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. I believe we also did the same with It Chapter 2. So, I
saw that recently.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in a bit. I really do try my best to give as much of a range as possible, but also talking about and kind of talking about film. And I understand that some may feel that the conversations can lean too into the negative. I understand that, but what I really enjoy about the episodes of Shining and with Hook is that they've been just positive conversation about film and what made these films great.
And that's the route where I wanted Red Spotlight to begin with in the first place. Just talk about movies and just absolutely splurge. Peter is so poignantly said this is cheaper than therapy.
Yeah.
It is a great therapy crux, I guess. That a good therapy replacement.
Well, because it is his therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, he always says very therapeutic, which is why he does these things. And I mean, to an extent, I mean, we all have a lot to say.
Yeah.
You know, we like to discuss it with each other.
And not only that, like in our small town, it's kind of hard to like find other people that talk about the same thing you do and know what you're talking about. But this is
kind of like a wasteland, really, in terms of that. So I guess this is
at least culturally.
I guess this is the point where we can say that this is our official 200th episode.
I guess
We're 53 minutes in, and we've just been talking, and this is our 200th show. Oh wow!
Oh wow!
You know,
fucking bullshit. Owen Wilson, fuck. But I think like 200 podcasts. We were just listening to snippets of the first one. Actually,
the very first one.
The very first one.
Yeah, which
the pilot. Which holy shit, a lot of cringe. A lot of regrets, but here we are. That's kind of like the key component of life,
let's
right?
talk about those regrets. Let's talk about those regrets. I mean, I don't think there's anything we need to hide from anybody, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's 200 shows. A lot has changed since then in terms of what you and I were both doing, in terms of what we ended up doing, in terms of what we're doing now. Like, did we ever talk about, when we did record that? That was like a September a few years ago, 2014.
Yeah,
2014 was when the Red Spotlight happened. Yeah. So, let's talk about that first show, or how it came about. Maybe more interestingly.
Well, first of all, we have a barren wasteland, which is called my father's guest room, which is never used. And I set up a nice little studio area for us.
Can I stop you right there? Were there any other options at the time to do that podcast? Because it just seemed to me that day ended up being one of the better days, but one of the most infamous of recording sessions happened in that same space. Episode, right? Yeah, happened in that same space. And it ended up driving you up. I think you lost your fucking mind.
I went
because of what happened. But were there really no other places to record that first show? Did you ever ask me if we could do it here?
We could have done it. But here's the thing. I was so, like, stuck in my head about doing it. Because number one, I'm envious of Howard Stern's setup, his studio.
We still don't have a setup like that.
It's a gorgeous thing. I was trying to get it as close as possible to that kind of setup.
So tell us how you set up the room.
I had a table in the middle. Against the wall, I had a
couch.
A couch.
That was fun. That was a nice element.
On the other end of that table, I had the engineer center for Julio to do his thing in. It would just be rotating like a guest. Rotate if they had something to say and all that stuff, and the mic would be there and our mic would be right here like it is right now, kind of. I
gotta say, I did enjoy that setup.
Yeah, it's a great vibe, right?
No,
it's a good influx. Yeah. You could like say, "Hey, Julio, how are you doing?" Or, "Hey, something, how are you doing?" Okay, that's great. You know.
Yeah, like you and I were sitting on the table, and then across from us we had Danielle and David. I think that day. They were the guests on the guest couch, and then as you say, in the engineer corner we had Julio, and I believe Josh was there too. And what I enjoyed myself thoroughly that day, and I do believe that the vibe had a lot to do with how you set up that room. It's just a damn shame it happened to be in that house.
Yeah.
That's just the problem.
Because it's just chaotic. It's just really chaotic. Nobody gives a shit that I'm recording or not.
So I guess that could also, we can talk about remake remedies, right?
Remake remedies.
Should we talk about remake remedies and what all the things that went wrong that day?
Oh, God. I don't want to open it up, but fuck, okay.
I mean, we don't got to get personal here, right? We just talk about the things that failed.
It just, number one, my dad has a landscaper, because I don't think he knows how to mow a lawn.
Oh, yeah, so this happened, right? We were in the middle of recording, and this is weird, right? And you can hear me, I think, fucking cracking up several times in that episode, much, again, to your everlasting annoyance. Because I would laugh every single time something would go wrong, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come off that way, but it was just funny to me.
But like, here's the thing that really pissed me off. It wasn't the fact that you were laughing. It's because I guess it's a heavy burden to bear, I guess. But I was hoping you'd be my rock throughout the whole entire thing, and you were not. You were a slippery slope.
Well, let me tell you something. I often feel the best way to go around certain issues or hiccups that happen in production are to laugh at it. That being said, look, I did feel for you, and I a lot of the things that happened wrong that day were, quite frankly, well, all of them really were out of your control. And I know how you are, and you know how I am. And I think that both of us know that we try our damnedest to get every single thing under control and to go as far as to basically get into the mindset of, okay, let's anticipate some of these things are happening, so, and let's see if we can put a button on it, right? Like, you went out of your way to make sure, as we had done in some weeks prior, to make sure this is like one of the best recordings. And I feel like you have to do that tenfold considering the venue that you're in. But again, what ended up happening when we were in recording? Fucking gardeners showed up in the middle of nowhere.
Gardeners, dogs barking up the wazoo. What else? People showing up late.
Literally busting the door open.
People unprepared for the discussions that are going to be discussed.
Well, I think the last straw was no. I think you came up to me. We took a break halfway through recording. We went to the kitchen and you told me that this recording is a disaster.
Yeah.
And then when we came back, this was like late January of 2015, and for some fucking reason, the air conditioning kicked in, and it just so happened that in the room we were in, it was like making the most amount of like rickety rackety noise.
Well, that's because the hub was right next to it.
Yeah, right. So it was just poor placing, and the fact that we were recording in that room. So, and of course, your family's dogs are, they're the kind of dogs that just don't shut up. So, and I think really there was a little bit of an I guess I should take the blame for this. Again, trying to be way overly ambitious and trying to squeeze in as many people as possible in that room. I don't know how many people ended up showing up that day.
Yeah. Too many. And,
yeah. But it's a shame, though.
We were good with just Danielle and David.
Absolutely. I think that's what we should have stuck to. But, I don't know. I do regret not having that, like, set up more and more. It's just not possible because of the house.
It's not practical.
It's not, because we're always interrupted, or we're always, like, there's always noise, like... The one thing I know about that house is that it's just noise and noise and noise, and like for the dumbest reasons possible.
Which is one thing I can't stand the least.
And with your luck and with my luck, it's just like, I think I even said to you,
it was bound to be a disaster.
Well, that recording of episode 10 was a disaster. I think I even told you that I half expected a plane to crash into the room. With how many things were going wrong.
I hope we crash. But yeah, the thing about the whole situation and scenario, it's ridiculous. But we have more stability now, I think.
Well, no,
I think due part because like we discovered that we could record audio on separate sides. That's helped out immensely.
Well, before we even get there, like a lot of things changed even before that happened. I'll say, like, right now, this recording, you and I are doing it together in the same space.
Yeah.
Which is so far from the norm nowadays. It used to be, when we got to Moreno and we got to Peter joining officially, there were a lot of those recordings. All of us were in this room.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, for me, those are some of my favorite memories from doing this podcast. I loved being in the same space with I think the core four of this podcast, for that run anyway. And just being in each other's presence and like talking about movies.
Like, okay, for example, one of my favorite recording sessions was doing the Force Awakens review. The thing about that podcast in particular,
or the audio commentary or the review?
The review.
Okay. That was fun too, the audio commentary.
Because here's the thing. We stayed up till I don't know what time.
Wait, what review?
The Force Awakens review.
For Red Spotlight?
Red Spotlight. Chewie, we're home. I think it's number 17.
What do you mean we stayed up though?
Okay, because here, if you let me finish the story.
Okay, I'll let you finish.
Okay, so what happened is that we had the bright idea of, I didn't have the bright idea. You had the bright idea of recording your BNC review that night at Julio's.
That was a failed idea.
Peter's.
Yeah, failed idea.
And you did that. You guys did that. You guys set up like the equipment ahead of time or something like that, at Peter's house, and then you went in and reviewed The Force Awakens. We went in at 7:30. That was our screening for Force Awakens. We did not get out until 10:30.
But the first thing we did was record an After Dark.
Did the After Dark. And then after the After Dark, we went to Peter's house and you filmed your thing. We got that up. I think it was being edited too right after, that way it could be released the next day. And then after that, we couldn't fit in Moreno later on that day, so she saw it at a separate screening.
She saw it at midnight, didn't she?
Yeah. And so she was up bright and early. We were bright and early here. We were barely awake. And it was at 8 or 9 in the morning.
We did that the next day?
We did that the next day. Dude, I remember feeling fucking exhausted. Because, I went to bed at 2. I remember this, vividly. I went to bed at 2. I didn't sleep because I knew we had to do this show the next morning. And so, by the time 7 o'clock rolls in, I roll in to set up the whole thing. And we were just the whole bit. I was fucking exhausted. I'm pretty sure you were.
I'm pretty sure all of us had to have been, right? Because didn't Moreno see it at 12?
Yeah. So she had to wake up whatever time.
I would imagine even sleep at that point,
Yeah, what sleep? So we were tired and exhausted, but goddamn, that led to the most memorable 48 hours. Because I remember being so anticipated watching The Force Awakens.
Yeah, everybody was, It was kind of the movie of a lifetime.
Yeah.
When that thing came out, it was just so extraordinary of a moment. But yeah, I do miss that. I miss that year especially. I had a good year of doing all those. We did a podcast of Fire and Ice, Jungle Book. That
was 2016.
Yeah. That year. It's in the span of 1 year.
The leading up after that.
Right. Our BVS review, which is, it also played a similar thing because Moreno saw it at a midnight screening and then she came in.
Yeah.
She rolled in. She was fucking dead.
I think you guys all were dead.
Oh, well, it's you were sick.
I was dead because, number one, I was sick. I was entertained with the movie, unlike you guys were. You guys were just pissed.
You didn't seem entertained.
No, I was entertained. When Wonder Woman dropped in, I was like, fuck yeah, let's do this. But you guys weren't having any of it. And I was trying to put like a little positive light, and you're like, no, fuck you. You know, why do you like that? And that was like, oh, fuck that. And I felt that way for a while because you guys were like so headstrong. And then we got to Patsy's on the purple Lamborghini. Fuck that episode. God damn.
Look, oh god, how do we do things? So like what, because BNC, the 2016 was the last year BNC was running concurrently. A lot of that year, or most of it, was here. And how we would do these recordings would be like, I think what would happen is we all showed up. We would do like, depending on what it was. So like for Suicide Squad, I would do or even BVS, a solo review, like the regular non-spoiler review. Then we would do a spoiler review with all of us. I think for BVS it was you, me, Peter, and Moreno. And then afterwards, then we break it all fucking down and do the podcast.
Yeah.
So, which interestingly enough, I did not find that anywhere near as exhausting as some of our audio commentaries.
Well, here's the thing. You could constantly talk about like whatever you want.
Yeah.
But in an audio commentary, you're supposed to go in chronological order in terms of like the sequence of events of a movie, you know, and it's completely different because it's like, and also you have to keep talking at the length of a movie. You could, a review could be whatever the fuck length you want it.
Right.
It range anywhere from a minute to, 2 hours, whatever you want. The sky's the limit. But with the movie, you have to constantly talk about like all the stuff during an audio commentary, and I think that gets pretty tedious.
I think one of the first times,
truth be told, I wouldn't mind phasing that out of our programming entirely.
Well, sometimes especially after this recent run of audio commentaries. I mean, because I think it was earlier this year, you and I had the bright idea of just go ahead and do all the MCU movies.
Yeah, audio commentaries.
It kind of killed it.
I ran out of things to say so fast. I was like, it's the movie's green.
Let's not go back to that. I don't think we started doing shows remotely until maybe when I moved away.
When you moved right? When you moved 2 hours away, and then you moved to the swamp, and the list goes on.
That's when things became more regular.
Yeah.
Well, regularly how we do things now, in which our recordings are just done remotely. Yeah. And I think what came at a maybe what was a little bit easier is that everybody have their own setup in their own homes as they do right now.
Yeah.
Kyle, you have your own setup. Peter has his own setup. The Morenos have their own fucking setup now. Yeah. Like it used to be that before everybody would come.
Now Nitty does.
Well, yeah, that's true. So like what happened was, before, when we would do these podcasts, all of the equipment that we had, and I think at that point it was mostly Julio's, maybe not even mine yet, until I got my own. But I believe that we kept the equipment, and it was pretty much limited to like one location, and whoever showed up, and that was that, right? But now everyone's got their own equipment.
Yeah,
which it comes in handy. So now when I do podcasts with David in Arizona, or when I did podcasts when I was in Washington, D.C., or in San Diego, and so it came in handy, and it allowed us to keep doing these podcasts. Right. And in some ways, while it also is easier to have it at a moment's notice to just go ahead and turn it on, as far as the editing, it kind of also made it a lot easier too.
Yeah, because you don't have to like deal with like another person's feed or anything like that.
And talk about that, right? Because you've had some, you've had some moments that have kind of plagued you when we do these kind of big setups, right?
It's like it's mostly a driver issue. If we're talking tech talk now, it's mostly a driver issue, because we're recording on 2 USB mics.
Right.
Versus if you were to do an audio interface.
Well, before we did have to do that, audio interfaces.
Right.
And some of those weren't necessarily great.
But the thing is that we tried to do two multiple audio interfaces.
Yeah.
During that thing, and that's what killed us.
Yeah, there was some mistakes definitely learned along the way, but here we are, 2019. This is what the 5th year of Red Spotlight.
Yeah,
we're getting into the 5th year. Everybody has
our audio sounds great. It just everything just sounds great, you know.
And I feel like it's one thing to be overly complimentary, but more and more I'm quite happy with how it sounds.
Yeah,
and I don't know, like how would you describe the audio right now? The quality of the audio. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, I'm happy.
How do you feel it sounds compared to other podcasts out there?
I have this. This sounds. I think I prefer the way. I mean, it might be bias showing, but I prefer our sound because the thing I don't like a lot in a different podcast is like the compressed sound.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the compressed sound that a lot of people have. Like, you could hear like over noise gate going on. You could.
You don't hear that in mine?
Yeah, I don't hear that.
That's
in
a compressor
either
in there.
Ours.
There's a compressor in there.
I know, but it's not overly compressed. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not like somebody is ramming something in there. If you want to be suggestive.
Right. I think my biggest concern is if my audio sounds overly modulated, and it doesn't.
Yeah. No, the thing, and that's where it could come off on some professional ones,
right.
At times. But yeah, it's at a right level. You could hear everything clearly.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about that is that during like for example, Claire or like whatever, like it could sound like that.
Yeah,
it could sound overmodulated and all that stuff because there's a lot of noise room and all that stuff. But like we have a better controlled substance going on with that.
Right.
And I think that's where it really leans into it sounding better than what we have, what's on the market right now in terms of podcasting.
Well, I think the cream of the crop in the industry is Adobe Audition to record audio.
Yeah.
I really like using Audacity. Like that's kind of all I use. I mean,
Same.
you record in Audacity. Do you edit in Audacity?
I know.
This is the weird paradigm. So you record in Audacity. I record on. I have a Mac.
Yeah.
You have a PC. So I have a Mac. I record on GarageBand. And I like to not tweak it because then it gets me insane. So I think at some point I put in the right properties and just left it alone because I saved that one file. And then I take the audio and I edit on Audacity. And I think for me, I've really, even though some things are a little like more difficult to do, but slightly, I found that especially the last year, to me anyway, it's like, at what point would you say that the audio started getting good? Not like tolerable, but good.
2017
was, oh yeah. Even though if you go back, there were some podcasts that had a lot of really like excess noise. But yeah, that was when it started getting good.
2017, and then 2018 we found our flow.
Yeah, and then
2018 we're never better. But
you edit your podcast
on Adobe Premiere, believe it or not.
Not even Audition. Don't you have Audition?
Not even. Okay, I would, but the
how come you do it on Audacity?
On Audacity?
Yeah.
Because that's a whole new different learning curve. I mean, unfortunately for you, you had to learn that in order to do what you wanted to do. But
why? Oh, because I didn't have Premiere at the time.
You didn't have Premiere at the time. And now that you found Audacity, I'm like, oh, it's a free program. You could anyone could download it.
Absolutely.
And they could do whatever the fuck they want on there. Yeah. But the thing about Premiere, it boils down to I'm fucking lazy. But here's the thing: you could get the same properties that you have, like in terms of like editing audio from Premiere that you could with Audition. So it goes hand in hand. And the thing is that with the reason why I prefer it is because number one, I could color code my audio my audio thing. Like, for example, I could make Moreno's red or something like that, and I could make my audio green
To distinguish it, yeah.
That way, I'm not like, because I see Audacity, and while it's great at recording, my mind, like, I start getting like cross-eyed. I'm like, what the fuck? Where's this bullshit?
Right.
You know, at? But the thing is that I could color code it, and I could like it's better. Like for me, it's better like organized.
Right.
I could organize folders inside and drop whatever I want, and that's how I'm able to make like the intros for the Fantasy Fair and all that stuff, because I do see the spectrums for all the ones. I could color code which ones belong to which, and it's more of a creative crux for me.
Right.
Like for example, I could just drop this, drop that, drop that, drop that, and put a few filters on. I'm fucking
and
done.
we need to say, like, all of this is like self-taught, you know, in a way. Like, and we back each other up, and like we help each other out on certain things that if we don't have a fix for it, then I send it over to you, or you send it over to me, and like we collaborate on.
We have a good
things.
system going on.
But it's important to stress that like nobody told us how to use these things, right? Like we kind of in a way taught ourselves.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you this, because like I think I mentioned this at the very first podcast of 2019, but like I went to school. A novel idea. I went to school. I went to graduate school, and one of my part of my degree was to learn a lot of the editing, and I felt so bad for some of my friends that never used Premiere, never edited anything in their lives, and it was a learning curve, like how to do all these different things, and it was just so daunting, intimidating. And it was like, and I told this to Julio when we did our podcast a few months back, like, look, man, I owe you a debt of gratitude. I really do, because you're the one that helped us, or you're the one that introduced us
to these different programs.
Yeah, and like Julio didn't teach us everything, but he basically opened the door and gave us like a manual of some sort, you know?
Okay.
Because like, first of all, did you ever see yourself when we did go think back to like the first 10 episodes of this podcast. Did you ever see yourself like doing the things that you do right now and handling all of that? Because you weren't responsible for it back then, right? Like who was it? Was it Julio?
Okay, here's the thing. The ones where we did the Walking Dead reviews,
those are different. But yeah,
things I was responsible for that, but I did nothing on those.
Right, they weren't edited at all.
Yeah. I would just be like, okay, recording. All right, let's go. And that would be the flux of it.
Right.
Without what I know now, I wouldn't have been able to make, all the intros and all that stuff.
Yeah, all of that stuff happened kind of because of Julio.
Yeah.
And you just kind of...
He opened the door, said, make yourself at home.
Yeah.
And we pretty much did.
Yeah.
And
I honestly, I find it to be a tool. And you wouldn't believe how valuable it was to me and how less stressful it was to me to do that program, but knowing how to fucking use it. It was so helpful, because like it got to a point, like, look, I think when you and I first started doing, the podcasts or the BNC stuff, like I certainly never thought that it would get to the point where it would become a one-man job, Like the whole point to me anyway of doing this with a team of people is to kind of like split the work a little bit, right? Because it was a lot, and it could be a lot.
Yeah.
And I talked about this I think before, but like, I think it was like during the last year or so of the BNC where we were ramping up programming. I think you and I recently sat down and we were watching an old BNC roundup, the very first one with you, me, and Antonio. From 2015, if you can believe that. It was like these were like basically like longer form shows. And I remember at that time that, Julio and I never clashed, but we were kind of butting heads a little bit because he, understandably, looking back on it, had a lot on his plate. And he felt that the expansion of a lot of the programming was a little overwhelming. And to be quite honest with you, what was the issue? We think we were doing like a 50-50 kind of thing. When we were just doing the video, the regular movie reviews on BNC. He would do things like the thumbnail and the name tags and other stuff with Photoshop. Mixing. Correct. He would do that, and then I personally on Premiere would go in and cut the damn thing. It got to the point with the BNC roundups and other stuff and the Star Wars project that we did and everything that it became way too much. And I think my issue with Julio at that point was that he and he'll acknowledge this too, that he should have said something a lot sooner before it got to the point of it being that bad. So what I didn't want was for me to get stuck with doing all of it. I didn't want that. I didn't think that was right. But tough luck. It happened. And it's interesting, right? Because that's kind of the nature of a lot of these things. Like at a moment's glance, things look like such a burden. But then a few years down the line, you wouldn't believe what a magical gift that was. Like him having to do his own things, I understood. And because this was mainly my passion project, right? I had to be responsible for keeping it alive, if that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, I made the choice that when I moved to San Diego to stop it because I missed you guys. And while doing the one-off videos on the reviews for myself, I could have kept doing that. I ultimately chose not to because what I missed was the dynamic of being in this room and doing that,
And talking.
Yeah. And that's why, like, at that point, the only option when I moved over to San Diego was to just wrap up doing the podcasts. And I don't remember what episode it was. Maybe it was like we were in the 40s or in the 50s of how many podcasts we've done. And when I moved over to San Diego, I also want to say that was around the time when we were like, you and I were like, okay, let's start committing to releasing a podcast at least once a week.
Yeah.
Once a week. And like, yeah, the podcast it's as far as like listens are concerned, it doesn't really do much of anything. But
to me, gave you a consistent balance.
But to me, I appreciate at the very least that we're putting in the effort. Like, I care about this. I know you care about Fantasy Fair and all the stuff that we've done. And so it's like, what we ultimately want is to put out a product and, and to be consistent about it, And I feel that we have been pretty consistent. And I think a lot of the conversations that we've had are great. I understand that a lot of people have their lives and they don't have the time to listen to hour-long podcasts. But I genuinely do, appreciate feedback about how, what did you think of what was said here? Do you think it was handled right? And I don't know what it is, but I
want to feel valid.
I'm not really looking for validation in the sense that, I want what I'm saying to be backed up. But I don't want to say this is a shot across anyone in particular. I would wish that more people who are in our circle of friends would take this more seriously. Not that they have to commit to all of this, but when I ask for feedback, I would like to hear some feedback. And I'm genuinely interested what people even, let's not get into the personal stuff, but or the history there, but I would really be interested to see, I would like to hear out of the blue one day, someone like a Giselle or an Antonio or a Nettie, hit me up and hey, listen to your last podcast. It was really good. That's all I really want. And that's these are people that have worked with us. These are people that are, have been associated with us at one point. And I'd like to hear that. But ultimately speaking, what I most care about is to do the best show that I can do. Now, sometimes you and I are not on the same page at all. and we clash. And I think at some point we kind of accepted that about each other. It's just the nature of our relationship. It's just going to be that there will be things that we will not agree on at all. But what we can agree is when we get to that point, we'll just let the other do what they want to do, you know, because we ultimately, like, we can't get in each other's way of, like, facilitating
what we
certain
want to do
projects.
creatively.
Yeah. And it's like, I know that the news heaviness of some of those shows, you don't necessarily like. Let's have a rare moment of genuineness this year. When you say things like that, well, I'm like, well, okay. But a lot of the podcasts that we did with Peter and with Alexis, we're news heavy. We talked about the news. It wasn't, I get when people say, like, wow, you guys ripped that apart and that was overly negative. And when you mentioned about stuff like suicide, the purple Lamborghini episode and how it gets you down, you understand that while that may have caused you to feel that way, that wasn't our intention to make you feel that way. Because, like,
but here, okay,
Peter, to his defense, felt legitimately bad that he made you feel that way. Like, when you left that space after we recorded that episode, what was it? Purple Lamborghini?
It was Patsy's on the
right.
Lamborghini.
When you left that episode and he kind of felt a little like, when he noticed that you felt that way, he legitimately felt bad. He didn't mean to do that. But I think it's important for people to feel authentic. And I want to say this to you because I want to, you know, be entirely genuine here. I have a tendency to really let other people's opinions on something get me down. Like, and I'll tell you why.
You absolutely, okay, main example, you
Star Wars
absolutely,
Rebels. That's a good example on this podcast.
I was going to go with something else.
I know, but
you dreaded doing the Avengers Endgame audio commentary.
I've actually it's interesting, right? Because I expected us to fight. It didn't happen. And I've kind of, believe it or not, I've grown entirely comfortable with how I feel about that movie and how Peter feels about that movie.
Yeah.
That's fine. The thing that there are just some things to me, and I've talked about this with him, right? I talked about this with
mostly him. Your feelings about, like, how you feel about a movie and all that stuff. It just boils down to you and Peter.
Yeah, and you know, here's what, and I've had this conversation with him. Look. And we've said this before on even the last podcast that he and I did. Like, our opinions on things have changed dramatically with something as simple as Star Wars from when we first knew each other to where we are now. One of the things, for me, it's like, it gets me a little irritated when we first met and in our first year of doing all these different projects, we would, on things that I particularly love, we would kind of agree 100%. Then years down the line, Peter was like, well, yeah, that's kind of mediocre. I don't really like that anymore. And it's like, okay. He has this kind of abrasive nature about himself. I understand that. Yeah. Like, I really love Rebels, you know, and a lot of the stuff. I was watching this compilation of all the scenes with Darth Vader that happened in Rebels. A lot of that stuff is magnificent Star Wars material, for me anyway. They had a compilation of all the things that Vader did and everything. I think you really like the show as well.
Yeah,
and it's like
not as much as contra whatever. I love Clone Wars.
I don't love it as much as Clone Wars either. Just to be clear about that.
Okay.
But I mean, it's Clone Wars and then Rebels. It's pretty clear that everybody agrees on that. But the point about all of that is it kind of just gets me a little heartbroken because, like, these are things that I especially love and care for, and here to have a friend whose opinion I hold in high regard completely rip it to shreds. Like, that happened with Rebels. And I was like, oh, well, that's fucking sucked. And then I believe it also happened with S.H.I.E.L.D. or something.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So it's like, I don't know, man.
But the thing that it boils down to is that
But why did you feel bad that day about Suicide Squad?
Because here's the thing with the Suicide Squad episode, the thing that made me feel bad is that not the fact that I liked the movie, but it was the fact that I couldn't back up why I liked the movie. I was just entertained.
Like there was no defending. There was no against all of these
negative things, and I felt trapped. I was like, I liked it because it was nice escapism, But the thing is that with you guys, it goes beyond escapism. You have to have a reason why.
I think you do have reasons why. I just think sometimes you have a little bit of trouble articulating. But I think ultimately what you're saying is that a lot of the critiques that were being thrown against the film, you saw as legitimately valid, but you couldn't back it up, and so you struggled with your ultimate enjoyment of the film. Did it make you feel bad for liking a movie you couldn't defend? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Hell yeah, I've absolutely felt that way.
Okay. I mean, I feel that way too sometimes.
I mean, I was like, Christ, am I not supposed to like this?
Well, then, isn't that how you felt with Joker recently?
No. The thing is,
you said that about Joker. You felt like you couldn't like it.
But here's the thing. I felt it wasn't like that. It was like more of an existential crisis.
Okay.
Because if I like the movie, what does that make me? Because Alexis, all I have are dark thoughts.
I mean, I feel that's why we do this, right? This is therapy, obviously. This is why we say it's therapy.
How right now I'm in a position where I'm just like, it all started when I was born.
Well, I mean, you and I met with Nettie recently, and we talked about Joker, and I told you thought that you were the only one that liked it. No, she loved it, and so did David loved it, and I assume Alexis liked it.
Yeah, and
I'm the one that's in the freaking minority, this is why, if you go back and listen to that Joker review, movies and film criticism is entirely subjective and fluid because everybody has, they bring something to a movie or they take something away from a movie that the other person possibly couldn't do. We agree, as I feel like oftentimes we do, on the craft of the film. I think the film deserves nominations for Best Original Score and Best Cinematography and Best Actor at the very least. I think those are well-deserved nominations if I believed in what the Academy Awards stood for. That's a different story altogether. But if they were running the way in which we're honoring film, the craft that is on display on that movie is masterful and deserving of those nominations. That's not in disagreement whatsoever. So I think in that regard, in that aspect, it's a great fucking movie. But I had issues with it that you possibly couldn't have because we're different people. Yeah. And we think differently.
You leaned on the more political...
my biggest issue was the message of the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was flawed.
But the thing that drove me insane was because, number one, Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely fucking captivating as Arthur Fleck. And he's just like the, think piece. Fuck, throw out the name Joker and, it would have equally worked just the same.
Right.
I think that a lot of the actors are really good. Zazie Beetz was good.
No question.
The list goes on of of who was great, the who's who of the movies. The cinematography. My dad, he's by trade, he is a photographer. And the thing that he told me was that, he really liked the emphasis on the way they, the cinematographer in the movie used the 35 millimeter.
Okay.
And the reason why is that because, you could focus, you could have a harsh focus on Arthur Fleck and make him feel more isolated. And that was really key important things. And that's cinematography 101.
Look, at its core, about, this back and forth about us, having, not feeling necessarily well when there's a movie that we happen to enjoy and that personally it's not fun to hear somebody else have such a harsh take on a movie that you liked. That's just generally how it is. But I feel like the more conversations we have on what our differences are, the more we can come to a place where we can agree. The one that I was surprised was cordial. This wasn't on Fantasy Fair, it was in Red Spotlight, the Toy Story 4 review that we had. I genuinely, it's weird, right? Because like I liked the movie, and then the more I saw it, the more and more I liked it. But like all of the things that Peter like was saying against it, I don't necessarily disagree. I just don't let that get in the way of enjoying what's there. I think that's the difference. Like the same thing with Endgame. I see what he's saying with Endgame and the problems, but it works in my favor. I mean, and how I enjoy the film, and that's fine. Or another way, how he painted his Star Wars headcanon with the 3 original classic Star Wars films and adding on Last Jedi. I agreed with that, but I also wanted to add in Force Awakens because I really like Force Awakens.
I love Force Awakens. I unabashedly love that movie. But the thing, okay, it's another thing. Okay, here's another example. I know a lot of the bullshit of this film series is problematic, especially because of its misogyny. But
as long as you acknowledge it, it's fine. You know.
But I love the James Bond franchise. You know, it's aesthetically pleasing. A lot, like it's just classy. A lot of good things are going about it.
And here's a perfect example. I don't get it.
Yeah,
Peter doesn't get it. I honestly, I don't get what you see in it, but I'm happy that you enjoy it. Yeah, that's the point.
It's formulaic, but like it feels fresh in its formula every single time.
Right, they're good movies from what I've seen.
You saw Spectre, you saw Skyfall, and you saw Casino Royale.
Goldfinger.
You saw some of that little sprinkles of it. I think you need to get into like the meat and bones of what it is.
I hate to tell you this, like I think the closest I like to like the closest I've enjoyed James Bond is the fucking Kingsman movie.
Yeah,
that's kind of.
I mean, they do definitely harken to the spirit of what the classic Bonds felt like.
Like the King's Man looks pretty good.
Yeah,
it's coming out pretty soon.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, actually,
with Matthew Vaughn coming back.
Yeah,
so.
and I like it. And I like Matthew Vaughn as a Doctor. Which, by the way, if we bring back to the table, I'm gonna have you fucking watch Layer Cake.
What's that?
It's Matthew Vaughn's film with Daniel Craig in it. Okay. He's the lead in it. Yeah. I'm gonna have you watch that movie because I absolutely adore it. I love the metaphor of being too deep into the system where you can't get out. I love it. But anyway, I want you the thing about this whole discourse. That's all it boils down to. And we do feel passionately about all this stuff.
Like you feel passionate about James Bond. I feel passionate about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean. I think the people who've listened to this long term know how passionate I am. I think much to your dismay sometimes, although I'll say this. I want to say this because I want to have the time to acknowledge this. I fully recognize and in many instances regret how deeply affected I let myself get based on something as rudimentary as fucking ratings and everything. And I really got like a whole fucking media narrative get in my head. And at times it made me feel bad. But honestly, looking back on it now, the show's about to hit its final season. I love the fact that I got to be part of a small but active fan base that, just fucking loves a show. And like what I think about the story of the show is really great is that we were able to keep it on the air for as long as it was. Yeah. After how close it was to biting the bullet year after year. And you have to understand that like...
He's talking about S.H.I.E.L.D., just to be clear.
Right. And you have to understand that for people like me who have watched the show from day one, like think back to that first fucking season. I remember when I was going to sit down and watch the season 1 finale with Sam Jackson guest starring as Nick Fury. I remember watching the finale and not knowing by the end of it if that was going to be the last fucking episode of the series. It had not been renewed yet. That's how down to the wire things got. In 2018, it was the very last show on the network that was yet to have been decided on of whether or not it looked like it was fucking dead. Yeah. And then it rose. It got like, at the time, it got what was supposed to be a final run of 13 episodes. They were filming, and then halfway through, they were like, "You want one more run of 13 episodes? Yeah, let's do it."
It was like every time like those kind of news, that kind of news, like I threw it at you, like because it was like what, a month later. And they were like, "Oh, by the way, here's another season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just for good measure." And I was like, "Oh, Alexis is gonna have a field day about that because you fucking sleep till it's almost dawn,
probably." Yeah.
And so when I sent you it and you finally woke up and all that bullshit, you were like, I was like, "Alexis, are you okay?"
When they renewed for season 7?
Yeah,
it was late November last year, huh?
Yeah.
When that news came, it was so out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was like, "Oh, by the way, here's another season, just for good measure." And then when that happened, you were stunned and shocked, and I was like, "No." I messaged you. I was like, "No words," and you're like, "I need a minute."
I needed a minute. Peter sent over a GIF of a stunned Frank Underwood, which I thought was a pretty hilarious GIF.
Speaking of dead,
that's not. Oh no, that's not good. No, but I think that definitely played a part in it. But I've grown to, again, what at first glance would seem like a burden ended up being a great gift, because I kind of learned to appreciate what we got, and not like be so like, gung ho on like missed opportunities.
Yeah.
That's why, like, and again, that kind of goes back to how Clone Wars was unceremoniously ended the first time. And a lot of the reasons why I ended up really liking Rebels was it kind of, for me, and I mean this for me, I know Peter doesn't like the show, but it provided a lot of closure
for a lot of the characters,
right,
like Rex, Ahsoka,
Maul.
The list goes on. I think the best closure of that series was probably Maul.
Yeah. Well, that was a definite closure, because Rex and Ahsoka...
It kind of screwed over Ewan McGregor, because there's nowhere else Obi-Wan could go, because like that's what should have been the movie, if they were to do a Kenobi thing.
But I appreciate the fact that it was an animation, though, because I especially like Witwer's Maul.
Yeah,
and I think in a weird way it made me like Ezra more. In a way, because like the dynamic that he had with Ezra anyway was pretty great.
Yeah.
So some of these things we have different takes on, and I think at some point we kind of have to be a little bit more like grown-ups about it. I'll admit it, that I've sometimes and often react in a childish way just because of initial instinct. But I'll say that for me, it stems from, and I'll say this lately, it stems from habitual rejection. Not in like, in the sense of like all of these like films or anything, but like in our real world lives, you and I are no stranger to rejection.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, I mean in terms of like getting a start in our careers. It doesn't feel good for someone to tell you, "No, you're wrong." That's just the point of it,
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
But the thing about me is that I take about going back to Rebels, is that there's something that really touched me about what Obi-Wan went through when dealing with all that. And what Obi-Wan specifically said was, when he was going against Maul in Rebels, he was like, look what's become of you. And then Obi-Wan flat out said, "Look what I've risen above." And I think that right there is the most important thing, because I'm like, look what I've risen above. I'm above this pettiness. I'm above what kind of childish discrepancies that go on, because it's like I've learned my lessons, and I've learned a lot over the past years. I've been turned down I've had like, you know, I've had a journey. Let me say that. Spare the details.
I've had a journey in terms of miles,
but yeah. But I think like, you know, my personal journey, that's the reason why I could like overlook this petty. That's why I hate pettiness.
Yeah.
Really, like pettiness.
Well, I hate pettiness, but I also hate people who are fake, you know? And I think what you and I have, you know, gained as an appreciation of doing these things is, you know, what you hear, not what you see, but what you hear is kind of what you get with you and me, you know?
Yeah.
And I think in terms of how we carry ourselves and where we go in our lives, we appreciate people who are authentic, who are brash, who are blunt. I am that way, and I don't like having people who are duplicitous and hide who they really are. And why are you laughing? Why are you laughing now?
You said brash? I thought of the art episode of SpongeBob.
The what?
The art episode of SpongeBob.
Which is...
I call this one bold and brash. More like belongs in the trash.
Yep, that's a moment. I miss those moments now. Like every time we would something like that's funny. I just wish Peter were here to like frown or cringe.
Huge.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Was coincidentally enough, that happened in the show we were just talking about. The purple Lamborghini one, right?
Oh yeah.
That happened.
Dude, I needed that levity in that episode.
Tell us what happened. Tell us what happened, right? So Peter was making a point.
I think he was like saying like, you know, the featured DC and then me, SpongeBob always on the mind, you know, because when
your mind is a weird thing, okay? There's something always there.
When is not the appropriate time to reference SpongeBob, right? So, us growing up with SpongeBob, that's our Simpsons, boys and girls.
Absolutely. We were talking about the future of DC movies, right?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I was like, future. And then you started, I
lost it, which made you lose it.
Which I was like laughing, and I'm like, I am SpongeTron, and just like the laundry list of references kept on coming. And so then Peter
he kept trying to make his point. Yeah. He tried to like weather through it.
Yeah, but we kept on laughing.
There was a point,
and he's like, "I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait."
He kept talking while you and I were laughing, and then you interjected with "I am SpongeTron," and then the whole thing just shut down for like a minute and a half. It was
us laughing. Great moment. I needed that levity. I needed that levity in that episode.
Yeah, I miss moments like those. That's hilarious. That was one of my favorite moments on the show, like ever. Like the moments that where you and I crack up and just lose it are some of the best moments. I feel like. Remember, on the very first episode, we had Peter. X gonna give it to you. The review of Deadpool. Do you remember how we closed that show? See if you can remember.
I don't remember how it ended.
You don't?
Oh.
I love
it.
Dude,
we've done so much of this shit.
200 as a matter of fact. This is what happened. So,
and it seems not a moment too soon.
This is what happened. So we were talking about
Doctor Who, everyone.
It was yeah, so the whole thing was basically reviewing the Deadpool film, but toward the latter end of the episode, it, as always, seemed to devolve into a Star Wars conversation. I think anyway. Oh, actually, no, it didn't devolve there. Well, this is what I remember happening.
Okay.
We were talking about, because when we saw Deadpool in theaters, we were in the same screening, but we weren't seated in the same area. We were, because we had gotten there late, I think, with the Moranos. So we were like in front of the theater, and Peter and Lexi were up in the back somewhere.
Yeah.
And what happened was, at that moment, we were having some kind of a Star Wars discussion. I think maybe some changes or whatever with the special editions. And I was doing one of... Peter was about to reference a change that he hates in Return of the Jedi. And the change was when Darth Vader was like, no.
Right.
Well, and you laugh like, you know how you get sometimes when you uncontrollably laugh and laugh hard. Peter was like, "Yep, that's the laugh I heard in the theater." Considering how far apart we were and how loud you were laughing during Deadpool.
Yeah.
And he was like, and this is hilarious too. What got me is like, he said that when you laugh like that, it sounds like the coffee is ready. That's how high pitched you can get sometimes when you laugh that hard. Like when the coffee maker is ready, when it beeps or whatever. And he or like a small parrot dying. And then you closed off the show because you were done. And that's how we ended that particular show. Okay. You don't remember that? Oh my goodness.
That was a little bit more anticlimactic than you built it up to be.
Okay, well, what do you remember about the show that made you laugh so hard?
I don't know. To be honest,
remember you and I one time it was Holy Rusted Metal Batman, the BVS review. I think again Peter and Moreno were trying to make a point. And you and I broke into that Lois and Stewie.
Oh, Lois!
Mom!
Lois! Mom! Mommy!
And we were told to shut the fuck up. Because it really pissed them off. Like, shut up. We were yelled at to shut the fuck up. In those reviews. Yeah.
Any time to jab and poke the bear. We do a lot of that here on the show.
No, yeah, and it's fun. Especially when, we're on the same train.
Going off the rails of a crazy chain.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the bell game's happening right now.
I guess this ties in back to the very beginning, but you were talking about cattle call.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
What is cattle call for those who are not in the valley?
Oh shit. Okay. Bunch of yeehaw cowboy bullshit. The rodeo comes to town, literally. And it's like one of the biggest like events here because we have
no, it's the event of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because we have little to nothing going on.
I mean, it's a desert
here in this town. It's in the middle
I hear
of
we're getting a
nowhere.
Panera Bread.
I get big.
That'll tell you everything about how we are.
Big fucking whoop. Like we haven't seen one of the, anyway. I want some microwave mac and cheese.
I think one day we'll have a Chipotle.
Oh my god. Anyway, so that's what goes on, and I kind of skipped Halloween a little bit. I mean, I had Halloween music going on here and there, but mostly for the past 2 weeks, it's been nothing but George Strait.
So you were ready for like the cattle call because of the rodeo stuff that happened.
And I love it. I've been on a
Do you hear his new song?
Which one?
He has a new album out. It was a lead single. It was so country.
It's Honky Tonk something, right?
Something. I'll look it up right now on my phone. It's a good song. Check out George Strait stuff.
I haven't listened to his new album yet, truth be told.
Not the whole thing. I just heard that single.
But it was like into it. I've been on the floats a couple of times. In the cattle call parade.
Oh, are you generally a fan of the parade? I find it to be. Aside from the bands, pretty. I'll tell you this. I think Disney really spoils you in terms of what to expect from a parade. Like I'll just say,
I love being in them.
What are you doing? You're smiling and waving,
smile and wave, getting the crowd to say yeehaw, which is fun, and they do it. So
every little honky tonk bar. That's a song.
Every little honky tonk. Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that George Strait and all that stuff. I've been listening to that. Dude has a lot of good hits.
Didn't he have like 60 number one hits? Yeah, he had 60 number one hits, which is unheard of in the heralds of music. So
yeah,
I mean, if you like country music, which I understand, our own Peter Martinez
hates it.
He went so far as to say that Old Town Road was the only good country song, which made me want to strangle him.
Vomit even. Dude, the legend has it all. You have Amarillo by Morning.
But it ain't no Old Town Road.
all my exes live in Texas. The Fireman, a fire I can't put out. The Cowboy Rides Away. Nobody in his right mind would have left her. Troubadour.
Yeah.
I Saw God Day. Here for a Good Time. They'll throw back.
Well, you should, yeah. So for those that don't know the reference, Here for a Good Time, George Strait's song was actually the song that you hear in the early episodes, right? The intro song. So tell us why that of all, it was newish at the time, but why did you pick that song?
Okay, I wanted Here for a Good Time because, like, you know, I wanted that to be like the main consensus of what the vibe going forward was.
Mm-hmm.
You're there for a good time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're here for a good conversation and all that stuff. You know, no matter what's going on in the world, just go in and here for a good time. Plus, I wanted my own version of Rob Zombie's Great American Nightmare that Howard Stern uses as his opening theme.
Okay.
And I'm like, but that's not, like, Rob Zombie isn't, like, me. I mean, I do love metal, but it's not me. And I'm like, oh, this song will, like, perfectly fetch, you know, match the vibe I want to go forward with it. And so that's the reason why it was like that. Until, like, it would have been a nightmare to, like, get this thing AdSensed because of obviously copyright. So,
which we recently had a little bit of a snafu with that, didn't we?
a little bit, because I used one that was in the public domain.
One of our, so
Aries
if you hadn't noticed recently, we got a new theme that Kyle composed, which was really an older theme that's been brought back.
The thing about me is that we've had, like, this whole bit. We had this one that we used for a good long while called Aries by Splinter Gypsy.
How did it go again?
Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
We used that one for a long while, and for a long time, that was our theme. I was like, that's it. It's public domain. But then again, it went back into the copyright crux of it all.
Yeah, I feel that's not fair.
And so I was like,
it's not fair because, like, when we used that, it was public domain. And so, like, what happens to our shows? So, like,
no, it's still okay. It's still of use. It could still be used. I just.
Well, okay. Let me give you this example. We only just recently put some of the podcasts back up on YouTube. If we had never, like, stopped putting them on YouTube, what would have happened to those shows? I feel like it's an open question, isn't it? Wouldn't YouTube give it a strike or something?
Yeah, we would have had to, like,
take them down, or at least re-upload them with new music, which is a pain in the ass.
Because it's like, because the way that it works.
How many shows we've done?
Yeah, or we could just cut out the intro and just, like, skip right into it.
Yeah, but I feel like that messes with the artistic integrity of the show. To just take out the freaking opening entrance.
Artistic integrity. Who the fuck are you?
I know. Fucking Elton John over here.
You know, you should have gone back to your old plow, you know.
Oh, shut up.
But the thing that we used one for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's
how many versions have we had of a theme song?
Okay, we had Here for a Good Time.
That was the very first one.
We had something I recorded for a project. It's not very good. It was.
I don't remember.
And then it was just like a guitar string bass. It's shit. It's utterly shit. I got another one that I recorded. That I recorded I recorded me doing the drums for a song called Monkey Wrench by Foo Fighters. And I had that drum recording.
Right.
So I was just like, I'm just going to repurpose it and use that for another thing that I did. And I did that. We did another one that I long thought was okay to use.
Until?
Because I thought that, you know, because a relative of mine made the song.
Oh, that one. Oh.
So I thought it was a good candidate to use
until
it turns out it was completely copyright by the record holder.
Shit.
So I was like, fuck, okay. So we had another one, a version of the theme that you hear in the podcast now. That starts off with the way that I mixed that episode. It starts off with quote unquote Stephen Hawking, and he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I present to you Red Spotlight Entertainment." And then I intertwined Damage Inc. from Metallica, and I put in like the little fade in parts of that song, just completely fine legally. But then cut into my song. I tuned my guitar in a way where I could use it as the bass. Which I did again for the new one. But just I had to put the mic close to the amplifier until I found out that I could plug in my amplifier into my computer. So now you have a more crisper sound now with the new theme going on. And we've been using the new theme ever since.
Yeah, and I think it's worked out pretty well so far. I like it. I think it also feels a little bit of a throwback because we used to use it, years and years ago, and it's updated. It sounds better.
And it's here to stay.
I think one of the biggest compliments in regards to the podcast that we've gotten lately, and I consider it a big compliment because he never really gives a compliment. I mean, it may sound like that's harsh, but that's just how he is. Talking about Julio, he really liked the outro song that we use for the podcast. We've been using that for how long? 2 years now?
2 years now. It's Safe and Sound by Mom Plazer. That's public domain. It's been public domain for a good almost a decade now.
I don't think that's going anywhere. I really like that outro.
Yeah, because the original outro that we were using for a while was
that's right. It was
Tori Kelly and Kermit doing Rainbow Connection.
It was a live version of a song that's copyrighted.
Yeah,
I remember that.
ABC.
you would always say, Tori and Kermit, take it away.
Take it away. Yeah. And it was a good vibe. It's a good vibing sound.
It's a good version of a song,
Plus I absolutely adore Tori Kelly's voice.
Yeah.
So it's just like hearing her and Kermit's soft-spoken nature. It's just brilliant juxtaposition with each other. But unfortunately, copyright got in the way. So
as usually, that's a theme, right?
Yeah, it's a theme. It's a theme of the themes.
Oh God.
But the thing is that I found that, and I'm like, ooh, this sounds like a nice.
Because
nice
when we're in this room, sometimes when we do podcasts, I like to just have just for I think aesthetic wise, I like to have movies just play silently in the background. Right now, The Force Awakens is playing.
Right.
And it reminds me, something that I wish we had legally the right to do, because I loved when you spliced in our audio commentary with Moreno and Peter with The Force Awakens with the actual footage of the film, because that's how it's meant to be seen, right?
Right.
An audio commentary is meant to be listened to while you're watching the actual movie, and because of copyright concerns, realities, you can't do that, and it just adds so much when you're able to watch the movie and hear our commentary,
Which on my old computer, I had that on file.
Right.
And it
I mean, you just pull up the movie and you just hear the audio.
Yeah. And then you put in the other thing, but it's like syncing is a bitch and whatever. I absolutely.
Do you have a favorite? I know you don't like doing audio commentaries. Do you have one that you enjoyed recording?
Ooh.
I think that one is one you enjoyed recording. Right?
Well, yeah, it's just left having fun.
Yeah.
Guardians Volume 2.
I wasn't there. Yeah. I was there for 15 minutes.
Fuck you, buddy.
Well, I was there for 15 minutes and then I had to leave because a friend of mine was in dire need of help and I went to the rescue. So I was weird because I got to dress up and go to a gala of some sort. My phone is ringing. That's wonderful. Let's see what they have to say. This will be part of the podcast. Hello? Yes, you can. Enjoy them. Bye-bye. Just one of the McNuggets that I didn't eat.
Oh.
That's my mom calling. She just, can I have the chicken nuggets? Okay.
Well, fucking
Go for it. Whatever makes you happy. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so that night, what was so fascinating about that whole ordeal is that, so my friend's professor was being given some kind of a lifetime achievement award because it was the Nova Film Festival in Virginia, and it was weird. It was fun though being there. It was really it wasn't like anything like major. It held at a higher end movie theater where they were holding the award ceremony like inside an actual theater, which that was interesting.
And ain't no Chinese theater.
They had a little bit of an after party there. Let's not do that. But yeah, so I would have loved to have, participated in that because, I feel I have to make this abundantly clear sometimes. I know that you and Peter, hold Guardians 2 in such esteem that it's like your favorite Marvel movie.
Uh-huh.
I love Guardians 2, and I fucking adore that movie. I really do. But just because it's my number 7 doesn't mean I don't love it. I feel like 7 is
fuck you, buddy. It needs to be top 2, top 1, if that.
I'll say this.
It is without a doubt the best MCU film.
Okay. I think Guardians 2 is better than Guardians 1, but there's just something about the first Guardians that holds a special place. It's kind of like how people see Empire versus The New Hope,
Uh-huh.
Like the first one was...
Such a phenomenon.
I'm never going to forget the time you and I saw that together. That was an amazing experience, seeing the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah.
It like going to a movie and it blew the roof off the place.
We were like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Which is why I'm considering that one above Guardians 2 in a future project of ours.
Right.
Which I don't know if you've announced it or not.
Not yet.
Okay,
we're working on it, but I know what I know,
but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
As long as you know what I'm talking about,
because Guardians 1 is my number 2 MCU movie.
MCU, okay. But the thing about Guardian, the thing about that was because I was talking about somebody who feels the completely same way, and we're just gushing over why we love the movie so much, and it was pretty much like a love orgy fest of just adoring a film, and I think that's the most purest kind of audio commentary you could do because of that. I continued, we continued on throughout the whole conversation, and it was more like an intimate thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the most important thing about that.
I'm sorry I couldn't give that to you in any of the other MCU commentaries. I feel like the only one that I couldn't be a part of was the one you didn't feel so fucking tired at the end. I'm sorry I wasn't good enough to, sustain the conversation.
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah. Kidding, of course, but I think that the doing Guardians Volume 2 has got to be my favorite. I just love the whole and I love the way that this song matches this, and he's like, yes, and then Peter would be like, oh yes, because if you think about it, yada yada yada, and it just went on like that, and it went out without a hitch, But
I just want to clarify, I love the movie as much as you do, but I just happen to like some a little better from you. It's just because maybe I don't have it as high on my list as you doesn't mean that I don't necessarily subscribe to the arguments that you're making about Guardians 2. That's a great fucking movie. And honestly, I am ready to say that Guardians 2 is maybe the most criminally underrated movie of the decade. And, or at least in terms of sequels.
Yeah, but it's okay to be stupid once in a while.
Oh my God.
As long as you learn your mistakes. It's okay. Everybody, thinks what they think. But I can't believe. Oh, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I don't know. What are you thinking of?
Oh, I'm thinking of, because right now, okay, as aforementioned, The Force Awakens is on right now as we're speaking. Sometime later, me, Nettie, you, we were in Target, right? And like Nettie, she's petite, she's small, and the thing is that she got Kylo Ren's lightsaber at Target after we went to go watch The Force Awakens with her, and she's like, and she started tapping her ribs like how Kylo Ren does, trying to get the pain going.
Yeah, there's no one on this earth quite like Nettie. You know, she's a unique soul, and you know what? She's all the better for it that way. I know she wishes that she could have been a bigger part of this show, you know. But I mean, obviously, because life that doesn't work that way. But I know that she's been on the show several times now. I joked with her when we saw each other, I think a few days ago, that she has an annual podcast. Like she has an annual appearance.
Her one appearance a year.
Every year. But if, you know, you've listened to this.
In terms of like appearance wise, she's kind of like the Meryl Streep of like this podcast, because every year there's the one nomination saved
right
for Meryl Streep.
We got one podcast saved for Nettie.
Yeah.
That's true. And she's also one of the few ones that keeps coming back. Like one of the ones that has been with us from the very beginning. Do you remember the first time we had Nettie on the podcast? Was it It's Real Good, number 12?
Probably.
It had to have been, because that's when we arranged the BNC reunion video, right? Quote unquote reunion video. But we recorded it that day. And then, you know, there have been subsequent appearances, but like, she is someone, I don't know if she'll ever listen to this, probably not. But for those who are listening, she is someone who I hold in such high regard in terms of just what a tremendous human being she is, but also just how impeccable she is in everything she does. You know, she's someone that, you know, as I, you know, struggle with certain self-esteem issues and struggle with confidence issues. But I gotta tell you, she always finds a way to tackle a lot of the adversities, what I would argue, unnecessary adversities she's had to deal with.
She's been around a block or two.
Yeah, like really. And people constantly underestimate her. I feel she underestimates herself sometimes. Like I was having a conversation with her about doing Rocky Horror Picture Show, and because the idea that I pitched to you about what if we could do that, because like Nettie is kind of the reason why I saw that movie in the first place, and why we had that amazing, like, we won't get into it now because we might do a recording on it later. But and I think if you heard To the Table, we kind of know the story. But the reason is she's kind of like this gateway for us, like, to do different new things. And again, one of the reasons I feel as to why we were friends in the first place, because I mean, she and you and I, while we do have, there's something about the three of us that instantly we can connect, but we have our own slight differences. But again, what it came down to was, I feel, we have a lot of fun discussions over film and pop culture. But let me ask you this question, because now that I'm trying to look back on it, when we first met Nettie, or when we first started becoming friends, quote unquote, what do you remember why it was that we became friends?
Okay, I met her before you did.
When did you meet her?
I met her freshman year.
I met her sophomore year. No, wait a minute. I think I met her freshman year too. I didn't know her that well, but I think I did meet her.
I met her. We had, I think, biology together.
I had biology with her. What?
I had biology with her.
Who was your teacher?
Milan.
I had a biology class with Nettie. Was she there the whole year? Or just a semester? Because I had a class with Nettie with Miss Tamayo, Cynthia Tamayo. You know Miss Tamayo at BOHS?
Yeah.
She was in my class.
Fucking weird.
Wait, was it sophomore or freshman for you?
Freshman.
Not sophomore.
No.
Because I think our class was actually called Intro to Biology. Which is such a,
Right.
what a bullshit class title. We just call it biology because it was biology.
Yeah.
But I had Nettie in that class. That's how I knew her. But I don't remember her being there the whole year.
Huh.
Anyway, I'll just say for my part, she's an amazing human being, and she's kind, and she's sweet, and she's friendly.
What if this is a Joker situation where we just hallucinated Nettie this whole entire time?
I feel that's a scary thought, and let's not talk about that ever again.
Can you imagine that? We were like, oh, Nettie, fuck, where did I stay?
There's a joke of that. Yeah, let's not do that.
I'm practicing, yo. I've been practicing.
You've been practicing that one? Great.
But Alexis,
Oh, God.
I have
Or
dark thoughts.
But again, as often most of our friendships are, including yours and mine, the first thing that we realized we had in common is that we liked movies. And
Like, that's
we liked to
usually-
talk
that's
about
usually-
movies.
That's usually our number one icebreaker.
Did I ever
before
tell
we go
the
off
story
to
on
other
this show
things.
how Peter and I met? I told you, but did I ever tell on this show? No, huh? I don't think
On the record?
yeah. On the record.
The mic's there.
Let's get it on the record.
Fuck.
So, this happened in the BNC days. What are you smoking? You fake smoking here? Back in the good old days? Oh, God.
Alexis, all I have.
This happened back in the BNC days. I want to say that this was around the time that, this is early.
Okay, so BNC is pretty much our AMC movie talk, right? Are we going to address that?
Why do you do this? I didn't.
Right?
Explain.
Because Campy, Harloff, Ellis, Tiffany Smith, the late great
John Schnapp.
they would all like say, oh, when we did AMC movie talk. Oh yeah, well, okay. Back when we did AMC movie talk, remember that little closet that we were recording
Back in the AMC days.
Back in the AMC
And here
days.
I am saying back in the BNC
Back in the
days.
BNC days. So that which begs the question, Alexis: is AMC movie talk? Is BNC our AMC movie talk?
Well, I think the first answer to that would be yeah, because that's kind of what I was inspired by. You know, like I've always loved film and talking about film, and more so when we first met each other, how we grew to be friends. But AMC Movie Talk was like the first show of its kind that I got into that had like facilitated, I think, a really like wonderful conversation on, film and film news. And it made it, there was just something so new to it. I remember like the first year of IVC, our college, our community college, of which you and I have both gone to, weren't necessarily some of the best days of our lives. Let's just be real.
Mm-hmm.
Some days can be rather mundane. But I would always look forward to coming home and turning on an episode of AMC Movie Talk. And the more I would watch it, the more I was like, this is what I like. This is what I want to do with this stuff, with BNC, and kind of like, not copy it, but like to kind of make it my own and have our own thoughts about movies and everything, right? Which is kind of what all I have are bad thoughts.
I don't know what it is about that
You're not
line. It's
listening to
just
me.
funny.
Okay, fine.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. It's just you said a trigger word, and it's funny.
There's a whole bunch of trigger words, but anyway, that's kind of where I drew the inspiration. I think a direct one that I probably wasn't as cognizant of, was when Peter came on board. That was when you went to Red Spotlight on a permanent basis.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we immediately did to change was to get like I was really into fucking backgrounds, because my room is littered with like film memorabilia or like decorative pieces or whatever you want to say. So Chris Stuckman's original setup from years ago was kind of like my main inspiration for like putting some things together on a corner and making that be the main like setup. I think looking back on it was pretty obvious that was the
versus me when I do solo reviews and all that stuff. It's more of a minimalistic,
right,
Jeremy Johns-esque as thing because I like that, just having like the conversation.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing that he does right. Is that, it's just
Johns isn't a bad guy, but
but the thing is that I think he does right is have like the minimalistic approach. That way it's just you and whoever's watching.
And I appreciate that, but that wasn't me necessarily back then. I wanted to use a lot of the stuff that I had.
Overcompensating for something?
Probably. I think probably because, like, well, what was I? I mean, I was just a no one that had a thought about a movie. Who cares to see that? That's kind of
who am I, Who am I, Hedwig? What am I?
But as I said, when the BNC days came to a close, I guess you could say this is our version of Collider in a sense that we all kind of followed you here on the audio spectrum, and the reality that forced these changes. What, you're going to leave again?
That, now that it's
you're going to be campy, you're going to leave.
Now that it's the 200th episode, I like to formally announce that I am resigning from Red Spotlight Entertainment. It's been
waited 200 shows to do this.
200 shows, yeah, and what a good time to do it. It's been real. I think it's been real fun. But it's time to go on to bigger, better horizons, soon. Alexis will leave, and
then I'll go join you.
Yeah, and then he'll join me, and the cycle repeats. And then we'll have Peter.
That's gonna piss him off. I like Perry Nemiroff, for the record. I think she's a great host in the show. Like, honestly, I think Movie Talk's become a lot more watchable now than it used to be.
Now that she's part of it.
I think she's a good host. I think Peter would be offended you called her Perry Nemiroff. You called him Perry Nemiroff. Anyway.
Well, you should be offended that I called you Christian Harloff. But you know what? The thing is that you worked your ass off for 5 years as a Star Wars fan, right? Right?
I don't know, man. The thing is, I think it's an appropriate comparison because I drew mainly inspiration from them, but that's also I'm gonna be so grateful for all those people that were doing AMC Movie Talk at that point because they inspired me to do what I did to a degree what I'm doing right now, and they're kind of were the reason why I kind of became friends with Peter. He liked movies, I like movies. Julio had brokered the introduction because I had been looking for somebody to replace you full time.
Thanks.
You resigned.
Which, by the way, welcome to my last episode.
Anyway, but it really wasn't until we discovered that we had a genuine passion for AMC Movie Talk and the personalities that were on there. And that's when we hit it off. And it's I knew when I was talking to this guy, not only that he had the exact idea about what I wanted to do with the channel, but that he was the perfect person to do that. And I also want to say this because she reminds this of me even though I forget. And she gets little credit for this. But Nettie actually deserves a lot of credit for this because she had recommended we look at Peter back in 2013. When we were first doing, I think, BNC, I don't think you remember, I don't remember her saying that Peter would be someone that we would look into. But you know what? Thank you, Nettie.
Nettie, she'd be like, you guys should bring on Peter. Who?
We knew him a little bit, right? We knew of him, not really him. back in those days.
Of him.
Let me just say this. You and I may have, there's a possibility, because I legit do not recall her saying that, but she swears, and I believe her. And
I swear that I made the comparison that the sequel trilogy is the same thing that's gonna happen from the original trilogy, but then you guys are like, oh, fuck you, Kyle, fuck you, and then all of a sudden, now that the evidence is conveniently more clearer, now you guys are like, it's kind of funny, right, Peter, that the new sequel trilogy is shaping out the exact same way the original trilogy did, and then Peter's like, oh yeah, it is, and vice versa.
I have a recollection.
Your guys' self off.
I have a recollection of that discussion. I don't recall you being turned down for that exact reasoning, though. That being said, I can't recall what it was really. But the point is, I think what really happened, you and I may have been too much at each other's throats to even be listening to anybody else. Because I don't remember Nettie ever making a suggestion. Do you?
Who?
Oh God, don't do that. That's fucking rude. I mean, she might be listening to this one. So yeah, that's kind of like when we first got introduced, Peter and I knew then and there that was the person that I needed. And then his first screening with us, we went to go see Ant-Man, and then we did a review of Ant-Man together, and the rest was kind of history. And honestly, like...
So you know what?
What?
Our friendship with Peter is rooted in Ant-Man. Oh my God. It makes sense now. Ant-Man. It brings people together.
I will say that I really do appreciate having him in that, that span of a year. I think it was a little over a year that last run of the BNC, and I couldn't have been happier leaving it off where it was, because that's kind of what I'd wanted to do with it. And we had a lot of wonderful conversations and moments that we had doing all this, with Peter and with Julio, and we had a lot of people come on. We had you come on a lot with Roundup. We had people like Giselle. We had guest appearances, as we normally did back then, from what used to be, I think, a pretty big circle, but now it's a smaller circle of people. Mm-hmm. And I guess you could say that Red Spotlight is, I guess, what you would consider the inevitable version of Collider, because, like, when BNC was retired, I pretty much... It's weird, right? Because, like, I pretty much was full-time with Red Spotlight,
mm-hmm.
but it's not as if I wasn't before, Like, I feel like I was on every episode with you, right? Like, even when I was doing BNC, we were on every fucking episode.
Yeah.
I just became, I think, much more involved in the process, maybe, when BNC was over. But, like, as far as I can tell, you and I have been here from the very beginning of these 200 shows.
No, Pumbaa. We've been here before the beginning.
What is that? 1.5?
1.5.
Before. Oh, shit. Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, and that's...
What do you think? 202 episodes. Oh, we're good, right?
I like where we are right now. I continue to be appreciative of doing this podcast. Honestly, we do it because it is therapy for us, but like I genuinely like doing this.
Uh-huh.
I feel like if we didn't enjoy it, and given like the numbers that the show does, there'd be no point to do it. But like ultimately speaking, we don't spend a dime on this show.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost us anything to do this.
Oh.
So like we could do this for the rest of our lives. Imagine
Time,
that.
yeah. But that's
Time,
it.
yeah, but we make the time to do this because we want to do this, you know?
The thing, like, when I envisioned this whole thing, like, it goes before BNC happened.
A lot, yeah, way before.
I wanted this, I don't know if, I've told this story a million times, but, here we go again. I wanted the show to be Howard Stern minus the porn. Just do movies. And that's what I wanted to do because he did have.
Notice how that kind of rhymed. Well, Stern porn.
Stern porn.
Never mind.
It's a stretch.
That's a stretch.
But
porn.
I genuinely wanted to because he does have good conversations.
Oh yeah, Howard Stern is one of the best interviewers in the business, maybe ever.
Yeah, because he fucking does his research.
Yeah.
But anyway. Like his programming is impeccable, and I wanted to do that with movies, and I've wanted to do it for so long, and then Red Spotlight Entertainment came around, and I finally got that. And here we are, 200 episodes later. We may say like it's not the success we have accumulated. It's the friends we made along the way. You can say something schlocky and bullshit like that.
Well,
honestly, it's like it just leads up to like this big accumulation of different things, different conversations, different memories that we had. A lot of our friendship is deeply rooted in this program. But the thing that really needs to be said about this is that honestly we need this space.
I think for our own mental health is what you're saying.
Mental health. And it's proven greatly I kind of need this.
Some of our closest friends are Alexis Moreno and Peter Martinez, and they wouldn't be if it weren't for this.
Yeah, like when in 2013, in episode 13, when Moreno came, it changed.
14 or 15?
No, 13. 14.
No. 2015 or 2014.
24. No, I'm talking about episode 13.
Right, but that would have come out in 2015.
2015, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about episode 13.
Episode number 13, Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah. Which has a double entendre.
One of my favorite episodes that we ever did.
Because, because number one, it's a James Bond title. But
is it?
It is a James Bond title.
I didn't know that. I thought it was I thought it was a reference to like the diamond celebration at Disneyland.
But it is a expression. Diamonds are forever. Like that's the thing that what you treasure, that will last on forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so diamonds are forever is an expression. It just so happens to be a James Bond title as well. But anyway, going back to the conversation,
that was basically like the birthplace of Fantasy Fair.
Yeah, but number 13. Well, I still use the intro for the outro.
Yeah.
But anyway, when Alexis Moreno came on, it changed the game forever.
It was, and you can't understate this. It's as if like in real time, something clicked, something just it fell into place that it desperately needed to fall into place. And we didn't think we could get, because we had been looking for a third person. Oh God! What are you laughing at now?
Alexis Moreno is Jar Jar Binks.
Well, how?
She was the key. She's the key to it all.
I mean, Lois is the key. Lois is the key. Lois from BBS.
No, but also Jar Jar Binks was the key to it all. She can be Lois, but anyway.
I think she preferred to be compared to Lois Lane than Jar Jar Binks. As far as cinematic characters are concerned. But I think that episode changed the direction of the show.
Yeah, like indefinitely.
It may have saved it. You especially, I think you were so down. I don't know if that hadn't worked. You might have just called it quits.
Yeah.
That's how bad it came. That's how close it came to not continuing, right? Because you were in a bad place. You were just not happy with how it ended up being. And and
I wanted this thing off the ground so badly, but just
that came at the aftermath of Remake Remedies, right?
No, because
it was 10, and there were like 2 other shows.
2 other shows, yeah.
But it didn't feel like it was going anywhere, right?
I tried out with one other person, which we should not forget, though.
Of course not, because that was also a great discussion.
It was a great discussion. But like I'm all for vibes, and the vibe wasn't entirely there that I was looking for.
It didn't click.
And then when Moreno stepped into the picture, that's when I was like, okay, this is what it's all about, you know.
Again, probably have mentioned this a million times, but that's somebody that, in a weird, strange way, it's like, she's been around the periphery of other friends of ours.
Yeah.
But up until then, and we knew each other because we're from the same class from high school, but it's not as if we had ever hung out before.
Deep consideration,
you know,
into that capacity.
And there was just something about that particular, that initial podcast that it felt like she was an old friend of ours.
Yeah. Like the way that the thing that, you know, was like the missing ingredient was that shared passion between different parties, other than by ourselves. I mean, we could have easily just taken Red Spot Entertainment by ourselves. It could have been easy. But again, we were such at odds with each other. We were at each other's throats creatively that nothing was being satisfied, and therefore
we were stuck.
And I didn't feel satisfied until that episode. I was like, you know, maybe this could work. You know, when 13 happened, and then 14 we did. It all started with Con.
Oh, yeah.
And then the list goes on about all the different episodes that we did. And when it all boils down to it, you know, we found Peter, and it is the friends that we made along the way. But the most important thing about that was that we came all to a, I guess, creative understanding of what this thing is supposed to be about.
And that's why, the iteration that came between the dynamic that the 4 of us had was always something that I wanted the show to be. And I really did wish it would have lasted longer, but as life happens to be the case, we all kind of went our separate ways. You know? But in spite of all of that, all of us still do podcasts.
Yeah, thank God for the internet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we wouldn't be doing podcasting if it weren't for the internet. Because number 1, you need the internet to podcast.
Well, yeah.
And number 2, because of the internet, the way that it works, we're able to communicate and record in different parts of the globe or wherever we are, you know, geographically. And I think that that's the most important key to making this thing work. Because it's hard to schedule everybody in one place, one room. You know, like the
coming from me,
days.
Yeah, you bet your ass it is. And it's gotten to the point where it realistically can't happen anymore.
No.
You know, if the next time you and I, Alexis Moreno and Peter Martinez are in the same room together, God knows when that'll be.
God only knows what I'll be without you.
What an amazing song. But yeah, I wish we also could open our doors to more people, and we generally do when they want. But it's just the core of this is always going to be you, me, and Peter.
Recent addition, even though that it's in close peripherals of us.
David's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Look, David. I know you had issues because David can be something, and he will be the first to say sometimes he doesn't really have much of anything to add. But I don't know. I feel like I've done at least 10 shows with him since he came on, and you know, the guy will surprise you sometimes, not just in terms of what he'll say, but certain opinions on some things, and Look, he's a really just like stand-up guy. I like him a lot. And he's listening, of course, right? He's the only one that'll listen to the actual podcast, so I have to say that.
Here's the thing, though. David, no shit, you're listening. I have nothing against you. You're a good guy. I love you, man. I just wasn't the right person to I guess lead you into the red spotlight path.
He genuinely loves doing these things. I feel anyway, and it also allows with David, because in a lot of ways David's kind of our MVP because he sees more movies than we do.
Yeah, he
goes to the theater like a lot more than the rest of us do.
Also, thank God for you, David. You talk about the shit that me and Peter just don't.
Exactly.
Don't give a shit about.
Exactly. And that includes S.H.I.E.L.D. in a way.
Or fuck about. Which, by the way, if you guys are willing to do a fan cast of it's a podcast, but like fan driven podcast.
Explain what that means.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
I'd be more than willing to make a new feed for you guys on the podcast. Take it episode by episode or do whatever the fuck you want with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you're willing to do that, I'll set that up for you.
I appreciate that. I mean,
I'll make you an intro.
I feel like we've considered it, but it's like, I mean, we mainly talk about that on the episodes.
Yeah,
in a way.
But if you guys want to like ham fist it, you guys can.
Well, I mean, maybe we could do a limited series for the final season.
Maybe
when it comes back next
beyond the Shield.
Yeah, beyond the Shield. We love the
Will
Shield.
that be the name, or would you name it something different?
I don't know. I mean, I think Beyond the Shield might be.
But it sounds like another show that we have on the feed right now.
Beyond the Years.
No.
What?
Bond and Beyond.
We may be overusing the word too much then, with Beyond is concerned.
To Infinity.
Yeah, to Infinity and Beyond. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, I appreciate that. No, but David's great. It's a great addition, and he offers films that the rest of us, quite frankly, can't be bothered to see. Like, for example, Maleficent, Mistresses of Evil.
Who?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. We were just talking about this scene.
Rogue One's playing on the TV now, people. So I've changed the movies in and out. So yeah, we're watching Bail Organa talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mothma.
Yeah.
So, third act is great. Love it. Some just great stuff in this
Star
movie.
Wars porn.
Yeah.
It's great. I'll trust it with my life. Captain Antilles. Right when that moment happened, like everything started clicking for me. But anyway, final thoughts.
We had a good conversation. Yeah, it was a nice show.
It's long. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pretty long. But I mean, that's kind of what the point of it was, right?
Yeah, just fucking talk.
This is this is the 200th edition of a series of podcasts, and I
200th episode in a series of episodes.
I am so happy that that we've been able to continue to do this, and I think as we've revealed in this episode, it's not something that we want to do. We kind of need to do this. Like part of ourselves like require us to sit down and oh god, he's about to do You want to explain what you just did? Okay, that's audio.
I directly fed the feed into my veins with the rubber band and everything.
That's wonderful. Yeah, so I'm just like, again, I always, when we hit milestones like these, I always just want to like turn around and thank you for doing it, because like none of us would be here if you hadn't had the idea in the first place and you hadn't had the initiative to actually get this thing going. Which, you know what? It's interesting, right?
I did.
You did. Oh. Okay, that's wonderful. That's something a good way to tie it together. Because, you know, the original version of this was the early version of BNC after all of us had graduated from high school, immediately after. When did you get the idea that we can get something together and start doing these? Because we had our first rehearsal in June. It was later in the month.
In terms of what?
Doing it. Like, when was the moment that you thought, like, okay, let's go ahead and start? Because what you wanted was a podcast. It became something else. But when did you think, okay, let's do this podcast?
When?
Yeah. Well, maybe the case, I know when. It was around that time. But what was it that made...
when we were capping off our senior year.
Yeah. What made you think that we could make this work? That we could... It's time to start doing the podcast.
We've been friends for a good 3 years. Yeah. And I think that was like, okay, we have a established, I guess, connection rapport already. Yeah, rapport. You know, so I think that that was the good basis of, you know, of where we could go. We started off recording off a mini camcorder on a show.
That was a practice.
It was a practice. And there was a practice with your old laptop, and sound effects aplenty, trying to be Zoo Radio.
If we ever have a Patreon, I'm gonna put that on as a Patreon exclusive.
Oh, we do have Patreon.
Let me rephrase that. When we ever use the Patreon, it'll be on there.
Okay. That was there.
Because one of the shows that's so bad we won't even release it.
Unless you pay to listen.
I think it's worth it. It's a disaster of a show.
Oh God, yeah. But anyway, I think that with that being said, I think that I was like, you know, let's just. To me, it wasn't more like a when, it's just how, and how it was just fucking do it.
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it. And then it started off on SoundCloud. And that was like the early feed, I guess. But then I was like, oh, you could actually put, like, I started researching like how to put it on iTunes, incorporate it in different places, and that's been successful. So thus far, now we're all on the major stations now, where podcasts are provided.
Right.
So like Google TuneIn, we're on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple.
Anywhere you listen to podcasts, which we can now say at the end of every podcast.
Yeah, you know, and when I say everywhere, it's like all the major ones that you listen to. So I think that was a good thing. I poured a lot into it. I handmade the intro, the what's it called? The logos.
Right.
The logos. I made the logos.
Every logo we've ever had has been yours, I feel, right? Even the original BNT design.
Even the original BNC.
That you hand drew, right?
Yeah, it was refined by Nettie.
Right.
But by and large, it was my design. The Red Spotlight Entertainment thing, I took an old picture of from my phone of one of the spotlights in Mr. C's room.
I had a feeling, yeah.
In Mr. C's room.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing in that in the thing on the logo is from our high school room. Our high school room of Mr. C. So that's where the spotlight came in. And I don't know where the original image is. But
the one that you drew?
No, the one that I took on my phone.
Okay.
I just traced it and used all that stuff as the logo because I knew I wanted to use it someday. I just didn't know what for.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there is from kind of our origins kind of thing. So the spotlight that you see on the logo has more meaning than before.
This is actually a really nice way to end off the show. And we're going to close off in the next few minutes. What do you hope to see Red Spotlight do in the next 100 episodes? Like things that we haven't really done too much of. I know one of the things you talked about initially about doing some kind of skits. That was way back in the old days.
Oh, in terms of like in general of what Red Spotlight?
Yeah. Like, what would you hope? What would you, as a fan, if you are, thank you, like to see in the next 100 episodes?
Ooh, you know what I would love to do, but you guys don't do impressions, so I don't know. You know what would be amazing if we do reads of scripts.
Okay.
Like for example, we take Casablanca. We riff on the script a little bit. Take the piss and vinegar, read it like how we'll always have Paris, and just like go off like that. I like to do a lot more riffing audio commentaries. I love making fun of shit.
What would be one movie right now if you could pick that you could be able to riff on?
You know which one?
Scott Pilgrim?
No, I can't riff on that. That's a perfect movie. Barney's Grand Adventure. I want to riff on that movie.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of golden material in there.
Okay.
If we do it, you'll see why. But I've always wanted to do Barney's Grand Adventure. A great adventure? Barney's? Whatever.
Magnificent Adventure?
I always wanted it in a no. Riffing. I would love to do riffing. I love to do script reads of movies. We could do what Mystery Science Theater does and take from the public domain film catalog and riff on that and actually have that as an audio commentary, a visual audio commentary like you were talking about earlier. What else can we do?
Well, I'll say for my part, I'm going to make sure that the programming is a lot more balanced between new stuff and non-new stuff. First and foremost, to have more discussions about film that we love. I'd like to make it a main objective to have Nettie Valdez more involved in this, because I think she's a terrific talent that I think needs to be on this show. And something that I'm not sure how realistic it is because of how often, we still rely mainly on like one microphone to do two people, how we're doing it right now. We're in the same space. Yeah. But what I would like is not only for if we had the option to record with two microphones at a time to where the audio was great, but what I would like is to create a vibe. I think that we've done okay with this vibe.
Oh, but I'm looking into that.
I know you are. And thank you. But it'll be interesting to see if we could ever do a vibe. Although, kind of like how we did, like when you created that in your father's place with the couch and the table and the thing and area. But it's just, we don't have as many people as we used to. So maybe it might not even be purposeful to do something like that.
Rent a space.
But,
or we could buy a house and make one.
We don't have money. That's the problem. So it's like, we make do with what we got. And, yeah, I feel like it'll be here before we know it. Because, it was the gap from 1 to 100 was several years.
Yeah.
But we just had our 100th episode last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
What was it in May? Was it April when we hit or was it maybe it was April or
this
maybe
year?
No, it was 2018.
Okay.
It was 2018, not 2019.
If it would have been this year,
that would have been
get the fuck out of here.
No, it was 2018.
Yeah.
But even that gap is pretty short from the previous gap of a span of 100 episodes. That's a lot.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I think in closing, I'm appreciative that we get to do this. I'm happy for anybody that listens. And we'll be having a lot of content on here. First of all, Fantasy Fair. Tell us what you got coming up.
Star Wars, nothing but.
I'll be on the Revenge of the Sith podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's confirmed.
January is we're gonna continue what should have been done if
things
the life didn't get in the way. We're gonna continue on with Eisner month. and then and then who knows where the list goes on.
I have
after
something else I
February.
forgot to add. Back to the list of things that I'd like to see incorporated in the next 100 shows.
Uh-huh.
I want more shows like this. I want more shows where we just sit down and talk.
Okay.
And like dispense with the formalities or the structure.
Okay.
We just talk.
Instead of every 100, every 50.
Every 50 what?
Every 50 episodes.
We do
something like this.
I want to do it more often than that.
Okay.
Like make it a regular thing. Like not like every, like maybe once every 2 months or so.
All right.
Because like the next time that I want to do this for sure is end of the year.
End of the year.
I feel I want to make that tradition where we just sit down at the end of the year and we talk about our year.
Okay.
I want to do that. I want to make things a little bit more personal, not so structured. Even though I do like that, what I'm getting out of this is something that I've missed from the old podcast that we used to do.
Let's fucking talk.
Yeah, and I think it helps that we're in the same space.
Right.
We're not being thrown off by fucking messengers like laggingness, and it's, oh my god, that's a different thing all in and of itself.
Well, that's because you don't close your tabs.
Is it that? I feel like I do. Okay, I need to. Okay, in the next 100 episodes, I'm gonna close all my tabs.
Good.
For the recording of the podcast.
Because you're overloading your task manager.
How many tabs did I have open when you got here?
Good lord. Like, it's the whole Nazgul army and Return of the King.
That's a lot.
It is. Yeah.
And for Red Spotlight, we're gonna have shows on Martin Scorsese and his films. I can tell you right now the films that we're going to be talking about for sure, and it's confirmed. We're talking about Mean Streets, Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, New York, Goodfellas, The Last Temptation of Christ, Casino, Gangs of New York, The Departed, Hugo, Silence, Wolf of Wall Street, and I believe Shutter Island, and maybe one more that I'm not. And of course, Irishman will have its review. Right now, and those episodes are going to be spread across some time because I'm not certain of when they're going to be up. One may be up by the time this is released, but just so you know, it's not going to operate by a strict schedule because I know better and it ain't going to work out the way that I want it. So there's that.
And then in January, Bond and Beyond will be kicking off.
Bond and Beyond, which is going to be on our podcast feed. It's its own feed with Kyle and with Peter, going to explore the Bond series before Bond 25, which that in and of itself is a pinnacle for this particular franchise.
Because it's Daniel Craig's swan song.
Yep, and it's the 25th Bond picture. So that's something also.
And there's a lot of I'm getting started now. Okay, so
at the 3 hour mark,
Okay, I'm gonna make it quick. Okay, so you know how there's a villain called Dr. No, right? Mm-hmm. It's been heavily speculated right now, and I would be like so overmoved. That's what kind of route they're going with anyway in the new James Bond movies. That Rami Malek is gonna play Dr. No.
He's a great actor.
And he's a great actor. Yeah. And I can't wait. I think that's amazing. But anyway, so it's going to be accumulating into that. And then later on, we're going to go into other stuff like the Kingsman series, Austin Powers, and just talk about Bond adjacent stuff. And then after that, we'll talk about, other things. The cocktail party. I'm thinking about doing a cocktail party, just like drinking the drinks that Bond drank.
Oh God!
And just talk about Bond that way. So that was. Oh, we could do that. We could do that here on Red Spotlight Entertainment.
Or how about you make some of those cocktails for our New Year's Eve party?
All right.
That'll be fun, right?
All right. Buy the booze.
I want to buy the booze.
Buy the booze, or we'll go half-seas.
We'll figure it out. Also coming, as always, we're going to have our end of the year top 10 list of 2019. And since it's the closing of a decade, by the time this year's over, or maybe hopefully by the time the year's over, or maybe by the beginning of January, we will have our top 10 films of the decade.
Yes.
So, and I do believe by the end of the year, we're going to have Far From Home and Captain Marvel situated as audio commentaries to put a button on the MCU stuff, which that should be fun. And I'm looking forward to more of the... look out for more episodes that focus on individual films. We did it on Hook. We did it on The Shining. And hopefully we can do some others in the future. Right. But until then, thank you, Kyle, for being on this show. I didn't expect it to go 3 hours, but yet they kind of flew by in a way. It's always fun when we get to have shows like this, you know?
And as always, remember, people, stay under the spotlight. Bye.
Bye, everybody.